Good evening, morning, afternoon, whatever applies to you. And I think that did come up on the video. I certainly heard it. Keire, what have you popped open? Come on. Come on.
No, it was me.
Oh, it was you.
I need caffeine.
Oh,
Cracking open a
okay.
cold one with the boys.
There we go. My inner bias.
For avid watchers, sometimes people will notice I'll wash down a swig of Red Bull with coffee. Is that a thing which I should be doing? No. Do I do it every podcast? Yes.
It's good for you.
My inner anti-Scottish bias thinking that Keire just popped open a fucking Iron Brew or something, you know, but there you go.
Don't drink juice.
Yeah. Don't buy into stereotypes, boys and girls. Anyway, I am joined, as always, by Mr. Keire and by Red Bull popping Nymaera to discuss all things LEC rosters, but also to talk about the new changes that got announced today, as, of course, that is now a hot topic. And by goodness, there is a lot of change. Before I do that, of course, we have to tackle my patented Would You Rather. And going with an interesting one this week. I think we've actually had a previously Death Note themed Would You Rather. This one.
Yeah.
Oh, here he goes. You know what, Keire? I may be stone cold sober from our anime arc, but, you know, every now and then you relapse, right? And you've just got to lean into it at that point. You just got to lean into it. Obviously, not relapse enough to actually watch anime. Like, let's not get silly. Right. Let's not get ridiculous.
You don't want to watch In Another World with a smartphone, Rich?
I mean, I don't know. By the way, I saw there was a browsing Steam, as you know, it's coming up to winter sale and all that. Looking at some bargains in my basket. I noticed there was a solo leveling game. Apparently exists.
Are you not playing? You're not playing it yet,
but like,
isn't that the most?
So many. Yeah, but the problem is with any kind of anime which is based on the game, almost inevitably, and this is one of the points where I do get really annoyed with anime. Grand majority of games in anime are shit. Sword Art Online, the game just is not good. I mean, the show is also not good, but the game is also not good. The only one where I'm like, okay, that works pretty well was Log Horizon. Log Horizon actually put a lot of thought into its like back end of that one. But then the problem is, then you've got an anime which is not focusing on the narrative, it's focused on.
What about Pokemon, Nymaera? What about the Pokemons?
Oh, you know, Yu-Gi-Oh! I attacked the moon!
What about Yu-Gi-Oh? Yu-Gi-Oh not making it for you?
That doesn't count. Card games don't count. Like, you know.
Yeah, card games are different, you know.
But am I right in saying
just take this entire subset of human civilization and disregard it? Brilliant.
Thinking a bit high and mighty of card games.
No, I'm saying it doesn't apply to anime gets these wrong. The card games are alright.
Let's talk about ancient history. Well, I really love the pyramids. No. Not the Egyptians.
No, okay. Well, if we're going to talk about ancient history, there is a great anime on Netflix which is called, I think it's like Rome Nove Vitae or something like that, which is like all baths lead to Rome, and it's about a Roman bloke who designs bathhouses, who like he like falls asleep in a bath and he wakes up in modern day Japan, and he starts learning about the art of bath making from modern day Japan, and then goes back to Rome to make baths. Genuinely fantastic. Is it like a smoking and crack narrative? Yes. Is it wonderful? Yes. Watch it.
The great thing about living in Europe, Nymaera, for all our American viewers, is you can just sort of jet set just a couple of hours on a plane to all these crazy sort of ancient civilizations and whatnot. And I went to Rome rather recently and actually got into a half-hour-long argument with a tour guide. Never a smart idea, you know, especially when you're obviously not actually the smartest person in the room about, you know, this specific subject
really empathize with
of
that
Rome.
Tour guide, by the way, when it comes to League of Legends as well.
I could not get over the fact that this guy tried to tell me that there's this very famous massive bath in Rome. Obviously, Romans are famous for their baths in general, but there's I can't remember what it's called, but there is this outdoor bath in Rome, which is like unbelievably big or whatever. And he was trying to tell me, see, I'm acting like he's still wrong, but whatever, we'll go with it. He was trying to tell me that this bath, which is, by the way, anyone, like all the local people were allowed to go to said bath.
Yeah, public baths.
He was trying to tell me that this was like really clean. And I was like, was it though? Was it really clean? Like, hey, don't I'm sure it's better than, you know, being in a literal sewer or, you know, maybe some of the clean water that certain plebeians had access to. Like, I don't know, maybe it's not really clean though, is it? If you've got 1,000, I think this bath could hold 5,000 people or something. I'm like, it's not really clean though, is it? And he's like, no, it's really clean. I'm like, and yeah, obviously it gets into whose standards are we talking about by a modern day? Like, what does clean mean? Basically, I turned into Jordan Peterson. Keire.
I mean,
what does clean mean? Like,
exactly.
What
like,
do we
if
mean here?
When around like the turn of the millennium in like 1000, right? And then you kind of had this kind of in England, in Britain, when you had these warring factions trying to conquer England again, because you had the Vikings and you had William the Conqueror and then the Celts or whatever. I don't know exactly how true this is, but I believe there's a couple of sources which go to say that women would prefer to be romantic with the Vikings because they showered once a week, as opposed to the local man who just didn't have a culture of bathing. So, but then again, a lot of the world didn't necessarily. Not every culture had the culture of bathing.
And if you don't clean yourself for, I believe it's more than 6 months or something, the body starts cleaning itself from the inside out. So there you go. Don't shower, kids. But anyway, what I would say, off the back of that really good advice, is also probably if you're part of a tour group,
don't argue with the tour guide like that.
Probably don't hold up all the other people who actually want to know, what's around the next corner with your petty
we're gonna have to call off the podcast holiday, Keire. We're gonna have to call it off. I'm sorry, we're staying home.
But, it is what it is. Anyway, I made up that extra time because I, cunningly, this is what you should actually do, by the way, if you go to Rome, unironically, the real tip here. If you plan on visiting the Vatican, which is, ethically, I would suggest you probably shouldn't visit the Vatican. But if you want to visit the Vatican, it is spectacular in its kind of gross way. Get a ticket via a tour bus group, which as part of the tour bus is going to the Vatican, because if you try and get a ticket short notice, you will not be able to, and you will go to the back of that 9-hour queue. So yeah, that's a sneaky little way that if it says tickets are sold out online, go through a third party, get a bus tour ticket of Rome, which includes the Vatican. It barely costs any more money, and then you can just go straight through the front door, which is what I did. So there you go. Anyway,
get invited for lunch.
Well, yeah, or that, or just become Pope, and you can really have a good look from the inside out. I'd suggest. Anyway, back to my would you rather. It goes as follows: Nymaera, would you rather? Okay, you receive the Death Note book, right? But you have to make a choice on the spot. Either you destroy the book, okay, or you keep the book. But if you decide to keep the book, it can never be destroyed after that moment in time. So including as and when you perish, for example, you will have to do something with it, or you don't have to. But the point is it cannot be destroyed. So you can have it in your possession, but it cannot be destroyed, or you simply destroy it on the spot.
What would get me in the least legal trouble for saying it on a podcast? Because the thing is, if you then choose to use it, you potentially are damning an entire future generation by doing it. So if you're doing a cost-benefit analysis in terms of, well, who could I take out of society, basically?
Oh, he's been death noted.
Pretty much would it be a problem down the road? I'm kind of leaning towards, well, it feels pretty futile to be living in society and not have any sway on society. Perhaps, that could be used to inspire certain change across the world, which won't happen easily otherwise. But yeah, the cost to future generations. Because even if it happens hundreds of years down the line, even if we bury it, 100 foot deep, what happens if it does get found,
So is it a question, use it or bury it, Rich?
Yeah. Well, no, it's not use it or bury it. I mean, you
it's destroy it or don't destroy it.
Yeah,
basically.
you have full agency over the book.
I'd use it for people in my Dota games, mate. Like that's the thing. Like I've said this before, mate. Like we were talking. Well,
just like everyone else's all chat is just chatter. This guy, no.
It's like we were talking about, like, if you had a button on your desk, you press it, and it takes out one of your teammates. You know what I mean? Okay, not teammates. Then it's somebody in the enemy team, right? Okay, I'd be pressing that twice just to make sure, just in case the genie lied to me or whatever situation I'm in. You know what I mean? Like,
oh wait, he's not even using it on his own teammates out of angst. He's using it just to win games, just to cheat.
No. Just to remove people that I'm slightly inconvenienced me during my daily routine, Brett. That's where I'm at.
Okay. So you're using it. The more interesting question is, what are you going to do when it comes to the end of your life? who are you passing this thing on to, or are you at all? What do you do with it?
Most likely I'm a support player, and then what do you call it? And
Yeah, my duo.
Go on,
duo
carry on the
Death Note.
sacred duty.
Yeah.
like
Oh,
keep those streets clean, kid, and I dab them, and off into the sunset I go.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah. No, I think I'm keeping it. I think it's too much.
All three of us are keeping it.
Yeah, but for like entirely different things. You're trying to change the world with it.
Here's the thing.
Slightly inconvenient.
Here's the thing about like someone finding it or whatever. Basically, if you use it in the proper way, you should have, you know, close to unlimited sums of money, right? Like there's no way that you can't make, you know, a lot of money out of being the owner of the Death Note, right? Which means you can spend unlimited amounts of money on having this book put in the most ludicrously inaccessible place, where I'm not saying it's going to stay like that forever, but at a time as and when people could most likely access it, everyone will have the equivalent of like a fucking Death Note button anyway, most likely, in terms of like how spread technology is to instantly kill. I mean, fuck it, they already have 47,000 deaths per year in America because people are allowed to have guns. Like, I'm pretty sure at a certain point, like, your life will be in the hands of others anyway. So yeah, I don't know. I think I would take it, and yeah, I would try and make a few changes here and there in terms of what my worldview is. You know, we won't get into.
I can't believe you would actually try and use it to like change like history. How selfish, by the way. Like that's actually.
You're going to kill your team.
Kills Dota players. How selfish, by the way.
If anything, doing stuff which affects more people is more selfless. Your actions are only impacting yourself.
How dare this guy go after
fascists
instead of Dota inters?
So right, sometimes they're the same. What do you call it? The what do you call it? Like, the thing is like, you've gotten beyond thinking that, like, you've no best for the direction of, like, human direction, you know what I mean? But
Keire, I argued with an actual tour guide about the Roman baths cleanliness. I'm too far gone at this point, anyway.
Isn't it ironic that the one person who's got the least ambitions for it is called Keire? Like, for keeping in the Death Note lore, the guy who used the Death Note, Keire, come on. Gotta have more ambition, friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like, I can assure you, nobody I'm killing in my Dota games is progressing human society in any way that's positive. You know what I mean? Like, more likely than not, I'm actually, little by little, at small incremental value, I'm actually making the human population better on the aggregate.
The thing is, though, like, you know? Most likely, you know, only sort of one person would have to die, right? You kill a very heavily curated person who, let's say, a terminally ill, worst offender of the worst offenders who's going to die within a couple of days anyway, right? And you just use the book to demonstrate that it works once. And then hopefully you would never actually have to use it ever again to enact your control.
This is legit what happens in the anime, where it's like, oh, I'm just going to, you know, target this person who's on death row. They're going to die anyway.
Yep.
Sure.
I mean,
here's the thing. Like, have any of you ever played like Divinity, right? Okay.
Yeah.
The guy, the main character at the end of Divinity 2, right? The antagonist, right? Okay. He thinks that this plan's going to work. It doesn't work. Like, now I know that's Divinity, not real life, but I'm sure the humans.
Oh, by the way, one of the cool that game did one of the coolest things with its ending, where if you play multiplayer, there are endings where you and your co-op partners have to fight for the ending of the game. That shit's really cool.
And I butchered every single one of them.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a little bit unfair. Like I was running I think it was a poly scoundrel, so I could effectively do daggers drawn, skin graft, polymorph, and then double daggers again, or daggers drawn again, so I could get like a 10-hit combo. It was nuts. I got one shot Adrenaline Leak in that playthrough, actually.
This is going to sound like, you know, heresy or whatever. I don't know why. I can't pinpoint it. I didn't really like Divinity 2. I really like Baldur's Gate 3, but I didn't like Divinity. I don't know what it was. Like, I just didn't feel like... I don't feel that game sucked you in as much as, like, Baldur's Gate. Like, I didn't feel like the interactions were as memorable, or... I don't know what it was,
And we're back to the bath situation where Richard's wrong again. Anyway,
well... Hey, all I'm saying is Baldur's Gate 3 is better than Divinity 2. I don't think that's a controversial opinion. I think that probably does.
I think there are some things which Divinity does better than BG3. But I mean, I would agree that BG3 is a better game. I would. But I think there are some things which Divinity does better. Like the interactable environments in Divinity are actually really well designed.
I thought the start of Divinity 2 is better. The start of Baldur's Gate 3 is just weird. Like, I don't know. Like,
the damn Nautiloid.
Yeah.
Oh my god. But the problem is, I tried to do so many different campaigns with different friends on Divinity that I think I ended up playing about 60 hours of Fort Joy before I ever got out of it. So the intro to Divinity, I just like the damn theme song. It's just stuck in my head. Oh god,
crocodiles.
Yeah, the damn. What is it? What's the teleportation thing they have?
Gloves.
Yeah, the teleporting crocodiles. Yeah, they were a thing.
Anyway, from teleporting crocodiles to other big changes in the...
Most people are going to be teleporting to this point in the video, right? Well, that's all I know.
Yeah, welcome
it was a banger intro.
Welcome again, timestamp enjoyers. Yeah, so big changes in the LoL esports universe. And yeah, we're going to basically go through them for anyone who has not had a chance to have a look themselves. So yeah, Nymaera, what are your sort of... thoughts, feelings, takeaways, etc.
So there is so much to go through, and at time of the recording this, I think we've only had about literally half an hour to think about it from time of recording this. So if there are some other revelations and stuff we're speculating on, which are clarified later, obviously take that into advisement. So I think the two biggest ones are the changes from 2025 are pretty much all gone. So there's no Atacon, feats of strength are gone. First blood, first brick are back. Is that? I mean, that's the biggest change, and the blood petals with it are gone as well. So basically, the big objective changes are largely done away with. Although wait, did the 3 grubs come in this year as well? I suppose they did. So that one's staying.
Yes.
And then Baron's back to spawning at 20 minutes. So it's not Baron at 25 minutes. It's at 20 now. So there's one less objective to fight over. Everything's shuffled back up again, and one of the major goals was effectively, as quoting from the art from their dev post, is we want to swing back towards a state where more strategies like splitting and sieging are viable in 2026. And this is the thing which I've been talking about a little amount actually over the last few years, because it feels like split pushing particularly hasn't been a win condition since I would say about 2019. I think 2019, when you think about the G2 MSI victory with the Pyke everywhere in side lanes and the Ryze teleporting all about the place. And then, of course, 2018 as well, when you had, like, G2 with Perks and Wonder solo lanes, they would be doing, like, the Camille split push to end the game back at 2018 World, stuff like that. That's when I remember split pushing actually be a win condition. Whereas now it's kind of like, it's a pressure point, but split pushing doesn't win you the game, really. They're trying to move it back towards that with less objective fights and more incentives on the side lanes. I guess we'll get into some of that a bit later, because the other big change, which I want to talk about, is... role quests, which is a completely new system. This is one of the largest changes to the league that we've ever had in the game. Basically, when you choose your role in Champion Select, you will get a quest to fulfill, which I would imagine is by farming and spending time within a lane or whatever. But yeah, basically, those quests will grant additional power after they've been completed, and they are very, very, very impactful. For top lane, you start off with more XP, I think it is. You gain more XP from all future sources, and then also, once you complete the quest, you gain access to teleport in addition to your other summoners. If you already have teleport, it upgrades it so you get a large shield after completing it. So it means you can probably teleport into the middle of the fight. Yeah, it's faster and it gives you a large shield. So I didn't know about the faster thing. That could actually be very, very important, actually. Yeah, so that's the changes for top lane. Ah, yeah, and the other thing as well, your level cap is increased. Now, it hasn't told us what the level cap will be just yet, although that might be something which is revealed as and when this video goes live between us recording and then. So that's top lane. So you get more XP from all sources. Yep.
Can both players get it? So can both top laners complete the quest, or can only one top laner complete the quest?
Everyone in those roles can do. So it's not like a competed thing like feats of strength. So everyone can get it as far as
which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Mid lane, basically you get once you complete your quest, you get basically the feats of strength boots. You get a free upgrade towards that, which has empowered recall, and then basically the same buffs that we've seen before. think you could argue that this is well, Kira's got definitely some opinions on it. My opinion is this is probably quite a lot weaker than top lane, and definitely a lot weaker than whatever the fuck they've done to ADCs. Because I think already, particularly in pro play, which is what I'm interested in first and foremost, AD carries are pretty strong in League of Legends at the pro level. AD carries now, upon completing this quest, get a lump sum of gold. Ooh, that's nice. They also get more gold per minion kill. So they are increasing their gold generation afterwards. They also get a 7th item slot because their boots permanently go off their inventory. So their boots will just forever not be in their inventory. So they get to be a full item ahead of the rest of the game. All of that is also twinned onto some other system changes, which is not AD carry unique, but it definitely affects them the most. Critical strikes are going back to 200% damage before Infinity Edge. And they're also getting more items, which can definitely break some characters. There's an item which is quite similar to a diamond-tipped spear from Arena, which effectively means that the longer distance you hit an enemy at, the more AD you get on that ability or auto attack. So I think it caps out at about 700 range as well, so which is just a little bit beyond Caitlyn auto attack range. Yep. So if you end up hitting someone with a Jhin W, a Jhin ult, a Jhin 4th shot, a Twitch ultimate, that it will do an extra 10% damage on top of the crit, on top of the Infinity Edge crit as well. And that is going to go absolutely nuts. So AD carries, this is all of the systems there. I think technically jungle and support do also get some extra bonuses as well. But really, I guess I could go down and read them as well. But realistically,
go over them all the now, Nymaera. So we can talk about them all.
But the jungle and support ones, basically their rewards are the same ones that we have, and their logic is jungle is by far the strongest role in the game right now, which is I think that does track on solo queue stats as well. Jungle is actually kind of crazy. I think basically their quest, I think, gives them more gold in mid game, but early game how it's compensated is that their clear speed is largely going to be slowed down. So they're slowing the speed of early game clears to give lane matches a little more time to play out and interrupt it. But yeah, basically their role quest is still the same thing as it was before. In addition, completing their quest will also give junglers increased golden XP from large monsters, which is the main parts of your camp, as well as bonus movement speed in jungle. So basically going into mid game, they'll get more resources to spend less time in the jungle, which probably helps you on that helps your mid game fighter jungle, which normally go for that point.
The more I think about these changes, the more I like them. But continue. I just thought about something.
Yeah. Well, not exactly quest related. We're making it harder for non-junglers to steal objectives by increasing their resists and making Smite deal more damage. So you should see fewer Lux lasers and Varus arrows stealing objectives next year. That is a direct nerf to Gumi Yusi. It's still your team's fault if they don't keep the enemy junglers out the pit, though. Similar to jungle, we think support is already plenty powerful and has a very functional role quest. So we focus more on quality of life and less on direct buffs. Upon quest completion, supports will have a new slot exclusively for control wards. That is quite big. Although that being said, they don't often find themselves with a completely full inventory, especially in pro play.
Come to that.
Discounts on those control wards is bigger and more passive gold generation, which means that you get more gold and maybe are likely to get towards 2-3 items or something like that. So they can do more than just buy a redemption before the game ends. This will also twin in with another big system change as well, which applies to the entire map, which is effectively as the game goes on, there are specific fairy rings which appear across the map, and if you put a ward in there, it gets an increased vision range for those wards, I believe it is. So basically, warding play as the game goes on will be slightly easier to contribute to as all roles, but supports being able to use them because they're less tied to lanes could potentially use them a lot more as well. These changes all combined completely just flip the game as we know it. So yeah, that's the sum of all the quests. Any particular implications either of the two of you immediately pick up on there?
I mean, right, I'll let you go from what you hear, and I'll stop.
I think the most obvious thing that everyone's gonna go to straight away is, well, does this mean AD carries are broken? Like, is it now, especially looking at it through the eyes of pro play, is it now even more important to have a really good AD carry? I guess is the first thing that my thoughts go to. Is it more important now to have a particular kind of AD carry? With the added item, for example, does this inherently mean either hard carry AD champs are now even more powerful, or does it actually mean the opposite, that previous carries which maybe fall off because of an extra item, can you theory craft a way where actually they also become hyper carries while being super oppressive in the early game? And those are like the immediate questions that I have. So yeah, I guess like, what are your guys' initial feelings on something like that? Like in terms of AD carry, which is, I guess, probably the most impacted role here, although the jungle changes are big as well. Do you think this makes carries that are already strong even stronger, or do you actually think it does the opposite, where it's like carries or maybe lane dominant champs, which typically fall off, actually become more viable late? Like, where do you land on that, Keire?
So here's the thing. The ADC part of it is really number dependent, okay? And depending on where the numbers land, it'll kind of depend on what direction it goes, okay?
Can I just interject one thing here just to help give some context for this? So there was there's a video on the changes as well. Actually, in fact, let me just see if I can find the exact clip for it. I think it's somewhere around here. There is a clip on the changes for the role quests where we see effectively, I think this is coming up here on this bit. We see that you see that the quest completes while Caitlyn is level 6 at this point. Now, obviously they've got items here and whatever, but if this quest is being completed at level 6, largely across the board or whatever, I'm trying to remember where it is for the other ones. Yeah, I think it's around about level 6. It seems to be that they're showing on the video that might be subject to change. It means effectively you won't get the quest in very early game, but after that, AD carries will get the lump sum of gold, which will power them through to something like 2 items, and then also give them the extra gold generation after that point. Another system change, which I didn't mention as well, is that late game, I'm not exactly sure when late game kicks in, waves respawn quicker, so it won't be every 30 seconds, it will be shorter than that by an amount, which means that more minions and more gold per minion means that AD carries, despite the fact they would be less likely in today's meta to see them reach 6-7 items, may be more likely to hit that in the future, based on these changes. Anyway, you can go on with your point now.
No. So see when Caitlyn got like the lump of gold, how much did she get in the video?
I actually didn't see exactly how much it is. I'm actually not sure it shows exactly how.
If it doesn't show, right, let me give you an idea. Okay, I'll go through them. I'll just kind of work top down, right? So, actually, I'll answer your question you asked me there, Rich. I think the ADC thing is really, really hard to gauge.
Looks like it was about 400, that lump sum.
Fair enough. So, I think it's really hard to gauge. I think it's the one of the dangerous of spiraling out of control. I think it'll be the hardest one to balance. I think the 7 item part of it is the most irrelevant. Unless we end up in a meta where we're going ultra late all the time. We end up at like Season 7 Worlds, right? Unless they create Season 7 Worlds again, we rarely ever see 6 items. Most AD games are actually really decided at 3, so it's kind of just dressing on the top if you go to 4 and 5. The games that they do go there, they'll have big implications. I like it. One of the reasons I like it is I think it was really, really silly that mid lane could play ADCs for periods of time, certain ADCs for a period of time, just outright better than like bot lane. Now, there is actually not that much of a negative, but there's a drawback to playing certain flexible picks in certain positions that's not just the strategic component, right? Okay, because you then lose what.
So to be very clear, the quest is actually directly tied to the role that you select in game.
Yes, not the champion.
In champion.
So if I play Carthus bottom, I get the ADC like buff, right? So let me go through a lot of the stuff that I've been thinking about that's really quite, I think a lot of people haven't really thought about, but I think it's kind of not beautiful, but it could work out really nicely. Top lane, mobility role, taking the TP, they're going to be able to play with the combat sub. I think that's really, really cool. I think that's really, really great. I actually think top lane has been overpowered for quite a while now. More to do with its versatility of its roles. I think we're going to get to see like skilled top lane picks a lot shown through here. I think Riot brute forcing sometimes and then pulling back once they've illustrated their point can be a really effective way of like showing something. Jungle. I think this is really good for the jungle. Slowing down jungle means that there is a reason to pick the fast farmers. Your Karthus, your Nidalees, there is more of an onus of picking these because when you slow everyone down, the rate gets faster as a percentage. So like how much often you full clear in that. I actually quite like that. I think tanks and etc. were clearing way too fast relative to the other picks within the game. I also think generally, and I'm going to pull this in, jungle and support are both buffed by the fact that they can control this new excess vision. these are new vision pockets on the map. It's not inherently attached to their roles, but they are the primary drivers of vision within the game. Mid lane, we were talking about this in Nymaera. The reason I think the mid lane one is quite deceptive is, let's just say you value the boots upgrade. It's like 600. Like most of the boots upgrades are like what 500 gold now. I think. Gunmetals, yeah, 500 gold. Yeah, they're all about 500 gold. So you're getting 500 gold. It's not the most efficient because you don't get to allocate the money, but you're basically getting 500 gold and you're getting empowered recall. I think empowered recall is super, super powerful on mid lane, particularly if they're going to be more of a side lane focus where you're going to be able to expand resources, then get tempo resets, and then go and try and do something on the map. I think in pro play it's going to have really big implications. I also think in terms of like how people use their empowered like resets and their lane assignments. Remember, if you're a top laner into a mid laner, you don't recall at the same speed. So he can recall, push before you recall, and even though you've got TP, he could actually have a timing advantage on you. You know what I mean? So I think there's something quite cool there. We've talked about ADC. I think that one's the one that's going to spiral out, could spiral out of control the most, and it's the one that they really need to temper.
It is worth noting actually with the upgraded boots, because the way that I thought about it already was effectively the upgraded boots for feats of strength kind of function somewhat like Ornn items, because they're stats which you get above like the enemy team, which isn't limited by your item slots. Because you now get it for free, it's basically, you're basically 500 gold ahead of the curve, which is somewhat the same as the lump sum of gold from AD carry, maybe a little bit more, right? Depending on how much you view the stats as actually being valued. For instance, like the Spellslinger shoes are really, really good. The defensive boots in the right game are absolutely game-changing. So that could really change some things. I even wonder, actually, whether we could see the return of something like Scion mid and tanks just going for defensive boots like that, actually, because they're just so broken on tanks like that.
And you're also going to have like the armored advanced boots, like the plated ones. That's the one that's usually the most warp. As you said, the defensive one. That one's usually the most warping because it allows like your rises, your shorter range mages to walk up into physical damage spaces or into CC spaces that they usually wouldn't be able to walk up into earlier in the game and occupy like zones of control.
By the way,
with these boots,
with all these changes, what do you guys actually think the goal was with most of them? So, for example, I think it's probably with something like Atakan, I think the most obvious thing is most people just didn't really like Atakan. They thought it was kind of weird, contrived, kind of difficult to balance. People just weren't. It felt like the community sentiment was, we're not a big fan of Atakan. So that's, I'm assuming, why that is gone. But for most of these other changes, like for example, going back to the ADC thing, this is just a guess, do we think it's because Riot is making a concerted effort to make ADCs a bit more powerful, or is it, for example, are they going to tone down the stats in terms of how they relate to ADCs, and then the extra slot is actually either is like an active item, right? Like, do they want ADCs to have more active items, but then they turn down the base stats of the items?
I wonder whether. Well, okay. So there are a couple of things. So they do have. So I'll read out their statement. I've got it on the scene as well, Rich, if you want to bring it up so people can read along. So what Riot has stated as their major goals is, before we get into the specifics of blah blah blah, over the last few years, League's been largely about team fighting over neutral objectives. Atakan, fighting around Grubs, Dragons, Baron, all that vision ward you just placed. While we know 5v5s makes for some of the highest highs in League, we want to swing back towards a state where more strategies like split pushing and sieging are viable in 2026. To that end, we're making some changes to major neutral objectives, towers, and minions in order to do just that, and we've gone over some of them. Another one of our goals, and this is more about the role quests themselves, is to balance role agency so that each role has an appropriate impact on the outcome of each game. Because right now, some roles like jungle and support, this is particularly exemplified in pro play, are much more influential. While the two aforementioned goals are where we focus the most, we also have some other gameplay changes designed to reduce objective fatigue, which is basically you have to fight over objective all the time. Get you into the action faster. That's basically the start of the game now starts 35 seconds earlier. So camps and stuff effectively spawn at like 120, I guess, rather than 150. Improve class satisfaction, role quest again, and more. So that is the goal which they have stated. Now, in terms of role objective fatigue and stuff like that, I do somewhat agree with that. I think that Atakan, Grubs, Herald, dragons and Baron. It did just feel like, and it has felt like this for a while. Basically since like 2020, 21, when dragons got changed again and again, you have to fight pretty much every dragon, because if you give up dragons, you feel shit because you can't get the soul. And also, it feels like by the time Soul was on the table, you didn't have a win condition around side lanes. There's a couple of changes I didn't go. Sorry, folks. There are so many changes in this, by the way. One of the other changes is as well. There are a couple. So AD Assassins have a split pushing item now. I can scroll down to that actually, wherever the hell it is. I believe it is. Whenever you get a takedown, it grants a buff that makes your next attack against an epic monster, so dragons and barons or whatever, or a tower, deal a large amount of damage over time, scaling with your lethality. And it does have 22 lethality base, so it's a high lethality item as well, making it so that ahead AD Assassins can close out games if they're successfully assassinating their targets, and then presumably going on to hit that objective. Also deals some extra true damage to a spell every so often based on your lethality. The current stats I've seen for the first iteration of this is basically an extra 15 damage on first spell every 20 seconds. So, if Zed hits you with a Q or Jace with a Shock Blast, it's based like a Hextech Alternator, I suppose, but for AD. But you have to complete the actual item to do that. But the damage on towers, from what I saw, was like 850 damage to a tower after takedown, which is like a significant chunk of the tower, folks. It's a hell of a lot of damage to it. So that's one thing, which is basically saying, look, we haven't seen stuff like Zed or Talon or whatever actually side lane and win games from that for forever, and they can't exactly team fight. So we're not seeing them for those reasons. And then a couple of other things changed as well. Were effectively this is the huge one. This is the other system which I forgot. Side lane turrets, or turrets in general, over time they start getting like this crystalline growth on them. And the first time you hit it, that shatters and does more damage to it. So basically, if you haven't hit a turret for a long time, when you first hit it after a long time, it will deal more.
So it will have more damage essentially.
Yeah, or like you leave this turret for a while, it'll have more damage to it.
But you've also, all the turrets have now got plates.
Every turret except Nexus turrets now have plates as well. So that doesn't change it doesn't change the total gold for it, but it does mean that when you take down a part of a tower, you get the gold which you should have gotten. It makes things a little bit more awkward for feeding full turret gold over to, say, an AD carry that you want to funnel with a new change.
They'll be fine with the changes.
But yeah, it does mean that you can get like a portion of the tower gold. I'm trying to see where it is in the video.
I think ADCs are eating good this patch, lads.
Yeah.
The thing is I'm not torn. I don't think ADCs decided many competitive games this year, really. I don't think there are that.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think most games were still bot lane gets ahead and you feel great,
That's more to do with support than ADC. No, it is. Like, you could have anything. You could have anything down there. Like, what do you call it? Like, at points in time, it was the top laner. You know what I mean? But during the lane swap days. It's more to just do like numbers on like.
I mean,
it's on screen now, by the way. The visual effects.
I actually think ADCs individually, like carrying games through their like decision making matrix, right, was in 2025 was like the lowest it had been like in years. Okay, I think it was insanely high for jungle. I think it was still insanely high for mid. I still think it was insanely high for support. I think top lane was fucking terrible this year, just in terms of the level of play.
I thought that was level of individual play.
Yeah, level of individual play, not the role, right? But I think the ADC level of individual play was off the charts. But the actual decision agency off the role is still really, really low.
I don't know. How many teams lost bot lane and won games at the top level? I still think that like
KT lost.
Okay. KT are like the exception which proves the rule, because like how the hell did they manage to do that? But yeah, on the whole, if you won bot lane, it was so crazy. And at the end of the day, like effectively, if you didn't kill the AD carry still won you the team fight. That's just been the case for the last few years, right? I guess that's always been somewhat the case, but I don't know. I just feel like if AD carries ever made it to a fight and had any decent amount of strength, AD carries just were the focal point once again.
I mean, I guess my main question on all of this is, do you guys like these changes? I think, bar the ADC thing, which I'm like, to me that is purely devil's in the detail. Like, how are you actually going to balance it? Like, are you going to balance it? Okay, it's interesting. In reality, is it actually going to lead to anything different, or is just that now every single ADC ever is going to build a GA, for example, because they just see it as an extra active item slot, or a Yomu's or something like that? Like, are we just going to see a meta just become stale quickly, where it's like everyone's just, using it not to get an extra stat bonus necessarily, but now ADCs are all building Zhonya's, or whatever. Or how is that going to manifest? So that I'm reserving judgment on completely.
Well, that's numbers based in a certain sense
exactly.
as well. Yeah.
The other stuff, sort of instinctively, I think I'm actually quite a big fan of. I actually like this idea of like the roles thing. Whether or not they're implementing it like perfectly, I have no idea. But just the concept of like, we want every role to feel individual and impactful. I think that's really cool. And as you said, like, if this stops like mid laners from just playing all ADCs and Tristan is actually just way better mid than it is bot, if it gets rid of shit like that, I think that's a good thing for the game. And mid laners playing mid laners and so on. It's not that you want people to never be able to breach the meta or something, but I don't think these changes will stop that. People will still find really cool angles based off the roles as well, of like, you're going to see some different really weird shit, right? Where it's like, if jungle gets this bonus or this taken away, you're going to see an unorthodox champion played there to take advantage of that specific thing. So I actually overall, and like getting rid of Atcan, I think I'm probably a fan of as well.
Yeah.
I didn't
The
really
worst
like
objective ever made.
I think G2
I'm sorry,
are happy
like
to see that
Atacard literally just rolled up for a year, fucked over like a bunch of games, including KT's Game 5 finals loss of Worlds, and then peaced out after getting killed in a cinematic. Like, this goddamn
just turns away like that anime meme of the guy with his cloak being like, my job here is done.
But you didn't do anything.
Hot take here. I think these are the best changes in League, barring the numbers, slight number adjustments since 2015 Baron changes. I think they're amazing. I think making dragons more tanky so that comps that want to burn them down actually have to commit to them. The Azirs, the Cassiopeias, the Kaisas that actually have percentage health damage or like huge amounts of AP DPS. I think moving the Baron spawn makes split pushers come out of the map earlier. I think Baron, if you had done all these changes and kept Baron where it was, it would have pushed the game too heavily one way. So I like how that was a push and a pull. The other thing, and a little bit of subtext there, I like the fact that like junglers get the bonus for killing the large jungle creeps. So it's advantageous for you when you're invading the enemy jungle quadrants for your jungler to be taking the gold and taking the camp, because that's where it's the most efficient. And so if you can get your jungler to hit that breakpoint first and then invade with him and make a progressive movement, like a mini objective around the red or the blue, and seize that, you know what I mean? And keep the enemy jungler behind. And that's the stuff that I love. I love the teams having that optionality to like do like these little like sub like movements on the map. And I think barring them just blowing the head off it with the ADCs. Let me give you an example. Say it's 1 gold per minion, right? Increase, right? That would mean they would have to farm 300 minions before they reach the same amount of gold as like the mid laner. Right, gets, okay, and that's not including evaluating empowered recall properly, right? So at 2 gold per minion, they would still have to kill 150 minions from the point they get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I'm just showing this on the screen here as well. So basically, after laning phase is over, which is a bit, I mean, that might be 14 minutes, I guess, because that's when
it breaks down. It breaks down at 9 minutes.
It breaks down to 9 minutes. Okay, right. 9 minutes. Minions spawn every 25 seconds rather than every 30, and that's like, that's a significant increase. That's what? How much extra percent? That's an extra like 6, right? In terms of minions spawning. One few melee minion spawns whenever a cannon spawns in his mid-game wave. So there's going to be a little less gold for that. But again, for AD carries, because they get more gold for minions on kill, this will multiply with that, right? Because there are still more minions spawning, so they will get more with that. In the late game, minions will spawn every 20 seconds with one fewer caster minion as well. So in that case, there'd be 2 melees, 2 ranged, and then a cannon minion. Because in late game, they always spawn with a cannon, I think, at that point. And super minions will now spawn with every wave once an inhibitor dies, so it means inhibitor kills are more pressure. But basically, like, for like everyone else, like, they're getting, a chunk less gold per wave then at that point, whereas AD carries are probably still getting like the same. And again, all of this multiplies with more minions spawning, I suppose. And also melees do more damage. Melees do more damage to turret plates as well, which is kind of. Well, okay, it really applies to someone like Renekton, right? Who gets to just shove in a wave, walk beyond. If you're playing like Renekton versus a Cassante matchup, and Cassante can't W the minions away from the turret to get aggro onto you, Renekton just walks away from the tower around you and just hits the turret. Worth noting, Demolish, they noticed this in the video as well. They noted this in the video, rather. Demolish is no longer a charge up, then hit. It's a 3-hit passive on turrets. So you have to hit them 3 times to get it, which means that sometimes it's harder to get Demolish, actually. But when you're actually in side lanes, it means that if you're constantly hitting them, I suppose you're doing more damage. So I guess melees actually now have more split pushing power. If you combine, well, yeah, if you combine this with, like, I don't know, Zed, who actually gets a kill in a side lane, gets to hit with a new AD split push item, and then does more damage to plates as well, which presumably, they're on more turrets than they were, right? Because they run in as inhibitors. Then melees have a lot more chance of doing some fun stuff in side lanes.
I think a potentially underrated part of these new season changes, obviously, again, we'll wait and see, but I think this might be the first time ever that the game, to me, at least on the face of it, seems more approachable for new players. Because you're removing an aspect which overcomplicated the game in Atakan, which just added another
and
whole bunch of and the feats of strength and all that stuff from last season, and you're more heavily defining the roles. I think it makes the game a bit easier for people to understand. Whereas if your first ever experience is you do the tutorial with Ashe, or maybe they changed the tutorial. That's like fucking hell. That's like going back 15 years. I don't know what they do now. But anyway, you do this tutorial. You jump into your first game against real people, and they're playing like Syndra Heimerdinger bot lane or something. And you're like, this isn't what I learned in school. It's like if we're seeing a lot less of this kind of stuff, especially at the start of the season, I think, with the roles being so defined as they are, like, a top laner is a top laner, and he wants to win the 1v1, and then he'll do more damage to the turret when he pushes the turret. And an AD carry is an AD carry, and he gets an extra item, and he actually gets more, whatever. I think adding these kind of aspects, in a way, even though you're adding, you're also kind of simplifying. So we'll see. As I said, it'll be, of course, the reality versus my expectation. But I think this is actually making the game maybe a little bit more accessible for new players than last season's patch was.
That hits on what you were just saying there, hits on so much I've been a real advocate for a long time, actually, is effectively I'm astounded that League hasn't had like curated player tutorials in the client itself to use. Like, imagine how well that would have been to market the esports side of the game and actually champion some players. Obviously they're trying to do that more with stuff like Hall of Legends now, but also like if you updated these things with season and patches and stuff like that, you could basically be like, well, okay, here's how you do a jungle clear on X champion. This is like your goal for, or like tips and tricks for top lane, tips and tricks for mid lane. Just even short 5 minutes video.
Clear in 2 minutes 30 is middly. Here's how to do it. Watch our goals.
Exactly.
Then you do it like the motor race and stuff and all that. Yeah.
And so weirdly enough, I actually think it's going to be a strange comparison. I think a game like Genshin Impact actually does some really cool stuff like this, where effectively every so often they have an event with effectively kind of like, I guess, obstacle courses or assault courses, effectively, where it's like, you get these selection of characters to take down this many enemies, or clear these goals in a certain amount of time, or do this objective using these mechanics. And doing something like, I don't know, I mean, I think Goldborg's done a great job with this on the LEC in terms of GB Sports, just doing like random, almost like party games with like Scion drifting or Poppy Golf, in terms of how do you control these mechanics to do that sort of thing. I think that would have been a really good way to introduce players to different aspects of the game, have a slightly more casual, fun way. For instance, these sorts of mini games, they have like speed running scenes and tons of content around them. Actually, League of Legends tutorial does actually have a speed running scene somewhat. I watched a video on it like not too long ago. There were some people that really try hard that, which is really cool. But I think the point which you're hitting there, Rich, in terms of making it more accessible and this season moving in a good direction for that, I do agree. But that just hits on another point where I'm like, I think there's actually some really big missing content there which could be tapped into.
Yeah. Some might say that, NA already do games done quick at Worlds every year. Anyway, moving on to LEC, because we do have to talk about that, of course. And of course, there's been a lot of changes. There's also been a lot of teams staying the same, for better or for worse. We'll talk about that as well. But where I actually want to start is, well, I'm actually just going to do it in the order that they appear, at least on my screen. And for whatever reason on my screen, the first team is... actually, you know what? We'll do it based on whatever's up here. So Fnatic first, are they? Okay, we'll do it like that.
Do you want me to zoom in on them?
Yep, do it. Zoom in on Fnatic. So yeah, we have lost Mr. Oskoronin, unfortunately. We're keeping. Well, I mean, there was a lot of drama and discussions about whether Razork was going to stay on the team. He is, in fact, staying on the team. Vladdy is, of course, joining from KC. Upset is staying. Losper is joining, formerly of Genji Challengers, for anyone who's not aware of him. And, of course, we are bidding goodbye to Mr. Oskoronin in replace of, how do you say that name?
Emperos.
So yeah, what are our and Grabs is staying as a coach, by the way. So yeah, what are our initial thoughts on this team, Keire? What do you make of these changes? Do you like anything? Hate anything? How do you feel about these Fnatic changes?
So I don't know anything about the top laner.
Samesies.
I do.
So
Because I'll quickly comment on that.
No.
So the fun thing about Emperos, so this is just like this is kind of just wild, just random happenings. Emperos used to go by the name of Jaxplank. He is a Greek player who used to play.
I didn't even realize that was Jaxplank.
Exactly.
Okay.
Who used to play with Vladdy both in
it's a fucking personality hire.
Both in the GLL and in the NLC in 2022. So actually, when I was casting NLC in 2022, Vladdy and Jaxplank, now Emperos, were both playing on Riddle Esports, and they were actually a very talented set of solo laners back then. They were very duelist heavy.
I'll tell you something, Keire. Fnatic can't win in shit this year, by the way. I've just remembered who this is. They're not winning anything. Oh my.
But Jaxplank was he was a very big player of duelist and top lane, and of course he was a great Jax and Gangplank player. He was also a big Vladimir player back then as well. But yeah, him and Vladdy played together a number of years ago. And yeah, it's just weird to see from that NLC 22 season. We've had those two. We've had Stens made us up way up there as well.
Fucking Jaxplank's in LEC. What's going on? Holy shit! I honestly had no idea this was the same. That's fucking crazy. That is crazy. Holy moly! Sorry, I think that fucking hell.
I'll be quick. So this roster just looks like another waste of time. For me, hopefully it's a redemption arc for Vladdy. Hopefully him and Razork can come together. I think if you're upset, I don't know what you're supposed to think of this roster. I don't know much about the support player, but I basically know what? Maybe that performance coach that Grabs has hired can finally come in and fix all the problems that there was in spring. There, I think he goes by. So maybe they can get the most out of him this year. Yeah, bro. This roster inspires nothing, but I don't know that much about. But from your reaction about the top lane player,
I'm not okay. Here's the thing. I'm not saying that this guy is complete trash or anything like that. For me, as someone who used to watch quite a lot of NLC, I am just flabbergasted that this guy who was like a 2 or 3 trick basically in NLC is now just randomly playing in LEC. I must have missed the prodigy arc that this guy went on since then, because I don't know. This is really weird, but I don't know. I will say I have watched a lot less. I watched a lot less of the individual domestic ERL leagues this year, so I don't even know what team this guy was on. So I'm not the best judge here. Maybe he had a really good year, so I might be, chatting shit. But if you had told me in 2021 or whenever it was I first watched this guy play an NLC that he was going to be an LEC player, I'd have been like, fucking hell, a Rogue have done another silly, haven't they?
Well, back then, but it's back then he was losing to GiantX at that kind of point, and obviously GiantX has been a weird guy. He's been up and down, but obviously much closer towards the start of kind of well, it's a couple of years ago in terms of development value, but yeah, he was good for NLC standard back then, but he wasn't the kind of person I thought would blow out at that point. Had a couple of years to develop. I'm in a similar spot where I haven't had time to actually sit down and VOD review a lot of this stuff too. I'm just kind of interested to see how the vibes of this team go, really, because with Fnatic, it is so much about just how do they manage putting out fires throughout the season. And obviously for Fnatic for the last however many years, it seems like that's just been consistently an issue. Grabs is still with the team. Presumably he had big vision for this. I'm sad to see Poby go, considering that they went to the effort of bringing him over. Obviously Humanoid's gone from that roster now as well. And yeah, I mean, I thought Poby was pretty good actually for the one split he came in, and I'm somewhat surprised that they didn't want to have him stick around a little bit more.
Here's the
What
thing, though,
a waste of fucking time
but
again.
here's the thing,
Yeah,
though.
I feel bad for Hobie. I feel bad for him.
This is the thing, though. It's like, do you want, if there's a if you take a snapshot of Europe, do you want Polby to be one of the mid laners on one of the best teams? I think the answer is just no. Like,
But it's not one of the best teams.
Well, yeah, sure, okay, a team aspiring to be one of the best teams.
There we go.
I think the thing is, I don't think Polby's bad, and people were just fucking atting me so much during the year about, see, we told you about, mate, I basically saw exactly what I thought I'd see. Maybe the better end of what I thought I'd see, but he is kind of like, in the grand scheme of things, a bit of a nothing burger. And that's not, again, it's not really a criticism. If he was on, I don't know, Giants, like, who are on the screen currently as well, Heretics, like, that would be a good player for them to sign. I'd be like, you know what, they've done well there getting him. But when you have the aspirations that Fnatic have, I'm just so underwhelmed by Polby. It's like, whatever. As you guys say, obviously, once you bring him over, for God's sake, please commit to him. Like, holy moly. Unless he runs
it just feels
down,
unfair to kind of...
Yeah, that's crazy.
It feels really unfair to the player.
And also, in, the spirit of not being unfair, I hope Empros is really good. I hope he does really well. I don't actually have an updated take on him, so... For all I know, maybe he is good. I'm more just shocked from remembering when I first saw him to now. So don't take that too seriously.
And also, and again, like, Losper as a support player, apparently, though, like, I don't think they had great EMEA Masters results. So I think it was GiantX's ERL team he was playing on. Apparently, like, he is an individual player, really stood out from that. So yeah, that's like a person which I need to go watch the tape of that. I think the thing which colors this discussion is the fact that Fnatic really fought hard to try and get Jun.
Yes.
And they didn't get him. They gave Jun like a big offer, and GiantX turned it down.
Which is hilarious, by the way. That
I just realized who fucking Losper is.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck? How's this guy?
He was on Gen G challenges.
Yeah, I just realised, mate. He pays his fucking what do you call it? Ex-support player. That's just
pays his academy.
Yeah, he played with fucking pays, bro. That just dined with me there when you said, "Holy fuck, Rich, you're having that moment for the top laner, mate." I'm like, how's this guy playing? Kind of the joke about that, like the veteran joke about like Korean imports, like they're not sending their best. They turned into Donald Trump. They're not sending their best, right? Okay. He ain't their best, guys. He's not their best.
Yeah, I mean, I think my big takeaway from this is, like, again, limited knowledge from my side, at least, on certain aspects of the team. I don't feel super excited about this. I think anyone who's surprised that Vladdy's got a team, or like even a decent team, like off the back of last year, don't be surprised. I think Vladdy, well, there was so much going on that we've already covered about the internals. You can't
evaluate Vladdy in that space.
Yeah, you can't.
I'd be like evaluating fucking what's his name in Team Liquid. What's his name? The guy that was in Breaking Point.
Dardoch. Oh, sorry, Dardoch. Sorry, it was only
I'd be like trying to fucking evaluate Dardoch independently, like of stat. You just know everything went to fuck, and you just got to accept that, and then hope to God you don't get that player.
And then one other thing about this Fnatic thing as well, I'd really suggest people go back and watch 2 back-to-back interviews by Don Jake, because these ones were really good, because he interviewed Grabs and then Mickey 2 days back-to-back, effectively. And one thing which Grabs was saying is, effectively, when things came around this off-season, he wanted to have a team with people with like a like-minded vision or thought in the same way. And obviously that then implies that Mickey did not think in the same way about the game.
Why did they kick him out?
And then basically, I can't remember which order the interviews were in. I think it was Grabs and then Mickey. But basically, he was fairly diplomatic about it and basically said, well, perhaps things could have been communicated better and stuff like that. And Mickey said effectively during the off-season, he recommended to Fnatic to get like
Leader
and Wonder. Leader and Wonder as the solo laners.
Would you look at that?
Which we'll talk about later, but that, of course, has happened to SK instead, which we'll talk about at some point.
Fucking unbelievable.
So Fnatic fought really hard for Jun. They had this thing with Mickey where Mickey was potentially was eyeing up these changes for solo lanes, and credit to, I mean, you've got to give players their say, right, to a certain extent, but obviously, it seems like there was an impasse at some point between the different factors. Sure, but yeah, players do have to play with players that they, believe
Don't you
in.
love, by the way, the timeline that it's the supposed timeline that it's impossible that Mickey X could ever have possibly suggested leader over caps, and humanoid leaves, and this guy's like leader. Like, yeah, nah, definitely didn't happen, did it, guys? Definitely didn't happen.
Poby's like asking, is like, oh, what does that? He's like talking about it in front of Poby, but he doesn't speak English, and he's like, oh, is he coming to play top lane? No, Poby, he's coming to play your lane.
What do you mean? You want me to be a leader? You a leader? No.
Exactly.
Oh, you're talking about that guy who's like fucking master hardstyle. Oh, okay. Well, anyway, moving on to G2. By the way, I have no idea where his solo queue rank. He's probably challenger, fuck knows. Anyway, he's master in my head at this moment in his career. G2 remain unchanged. So yeah, I'm not even going to run down the roster. So my question for you guys on this is, do you think that is the correct decision? Are you happy that they've stayed unchanged? Would you like to see a change somewhere? What do you guys think? Nymaera, what do you think?
So funnily enough, I got a little bit of insight on this because I was co-streaming Worlds from the G2 watch parties. So after G2 lost their quarterfinals, yeah, it was really fun, by the way. I mean, we talked about this last episode, but like I got to talk with Monty and Doa on stream for a Telecom War, very cool. Quickshot was around as well. But after G2 lost to Top Esports, I talked to a couple of folks which were, staff of G2, not necessarily working, on team in terms of like a day-to-day business, but people who've been around for a little while. Because it's quite interesting to hear from like a G2 internal perspective. And like I think the mindset is for G2 after this Worlds and this year this was already somewhat of a development year. The fact that they made knockouts and there's still room to grow, they saw as a positive, and they saw this year as a success. Now I don't know whether that's shared by everyone, but I suppose if they've kept the roster together, I presume that's probably not.
Why is everyone in fucking Europe a plant, man? Fucking hell, we should have gardeners instead of coaches, mate, and we'd actually maybe get something done. Why are these rosters all grown, mate? Like, T1 had Doran for like 1 fucking minute, mate, and they ended up winning Worlds, mate. Like, we just got different rules for the Asians in the West, man.
Well, but then, like,
fucked up.
To a certain degree, right? Look, one of the main complaints about Europe in the past was, a player comes in for like 1 split 1 year and he fucks up, he's out. Obviously, for someone like Skewmon, I actually think he had just a great debut year. He's like, I think, sadly for him, he kind of debuted in a year with like Hongq, which kind of stole the thunder a bit in terms of, world kind of rookie player of the year, blah, blah, blah. Because Hongq was really, really good, don't get me wrong. But Skewmon, I think, has had actually a very good year. I think you keep him. Yes, there were some words about some people were wondering about whether Inspired might go to G2 because obviously he was off FlyQuest. Were there any talks there? Blah, blah, blah. I'm actually not sure exactly where.
By the way, Inspired would be a disaster on G2.
I was about to say, because I think we're all going to agree, just quickly, I'm sorry. I think we're all going to agree here about G2 in a lot of ways. Just a quick call, Inspired G2, would you have pulled the trigger on it?
No.
No way.
There we go. So none of us here would have pulled the trigger on it. That's crazy. Anyway, sorry, continue.
They're a vibes. They're a vibes team, and I think Inspired is awesome. But even before you reach is he better for them than Skewmon or whatever? Which, by the way, is a conversation. It's not like Inspired is just default way better. It's a conversation. Vibes wise, no way. I wouldn't dream.
It's for me. It's like I think. Look, I can see a world in which Inspired is better for them. Of course, there's a world where Inspired's a great player, but I think like that's rolling a dice when you know that Skewmon is actually working right now after 1 year, and of course. This was somewhat of the question when they were replacing Yike, and you think, well, this is just rolling a dice for the sake of rolling a dice.
And G2 were better at the end of the year than the beginning of the year, which I think is an important distinction. If you flipped their year, it would be much more sus, I think.
Yeah, so G2, they made it to World's quarterfinals. Obviously, it sucks that they bowed out in the fashion which they did. The real contentious one, though, is Busio was looking to come to Europe. Indeed, he has come to Europe, and G2 chose not to take him over Labrov. Now, that's the one which I'm like, look, on the whole, I do think it's good to try and build on players rather than just like throw them out after like a split or a year, because I feel like we've had a lot of players not given a true chance to shine. But with someone like Labrov, he's been around in the LEC for a little while now, looked great on BDS. G2 way more mixed, and I think particularly in a macro sense in terms of where he's resetting and moving on the map. Feels like a lot of players have now kind of commented on how Europe's support movements probably just aren't great compared to the international best, really. Whereas Busio, I think... Yeah, I'm trying to look. I have to be the diplomat here. With you two, I
No,
gotta be the
that's good job. I'm being sincere. I would have used other
yeah,
words.
yeah. It's the what was the word? It wasn't interesting. Yeah. I've used some words before. But I think Busio is clearly the best Western support, and I think that he actually was very good at moving about the map in the right way. I think that Busio would have been. I would have pulled the trigger on Busio. And they obviously chose not to, and now Busio has gone elsewhere, which again we'll talk about as we come up to it. That's the one which I'm a little bit more contentious on.
I think Busio is only better in the regards of the picks that he provides you. I don't think he's actually
Well,
better. Bard, enchanters, but I think a lot of other things he's not as like good. And
he's a better Alistair as well, even though Labrov's good at that. I think Busio is an incredible Alistair.
Yeah, but I really one thing I don't understand is when I was watching a lot of the fumbles, is like I didn't feel like maybe what Labrov was like running out of things to play. But I'd watched a lot of Labrov, and like when I was watching them pick those Thresh games and stuff like that, that seemed like those big like draft like problems. I don't know why. At the end of the day, I think as I said, those look more like Dylan problems and problems that Dylan had all year, by the way. With Fearless
This was his
rather than
worst
Labrov problems.
for draft.
Yeah, Dylan is such a good standard BO5 drafter, and of all the people that moved to BO5, he suffered the most. Now, hopefully, now that he gets another year at it, he can really improve it because obviously G2's draft, like we used to talk about that being a strength of theirs. I think it's really hard to remove any player, even as bad as BB was at MSI this year. I think it's really hard to. It's this problem it's a famous issue in the NFL and the NBA when you're trying to tank for fucking picks. It's like you're slightly too good, like your star players are slightly too good to like really cause like a problem, and they just keep on winning. Are you going to just flip and find someone that's that much better than BB?
Yeah.
Are you going to flip and find somebody that's that much better than Labrov? Like, say Busu does work out, it's like at best like maybe a 10% difference. Is that why you're winning and losing League of Legends games? I don't think so. Like, I think there's other things there that are like causing you to leave that are more to do with the team rather than any individual player. So I think it's more about bringing this 5-man together rather than any individual player's like percentage profile moving about.
For me, it's like, as I said, if you flip the year, I think it's a completely different conversation. But I think the upward trajectory, I mean, to me, again, there's a myth that it's like Skumon started the year badly. He didn't, guys. He was good every split, by the way. He was legit like one of the better junglers.
His MSI
split
wasn't great, and
Yes.
his finals in winter and spring weren't
Yeah,
great.
sure. But generally speaking, he was good like every split on average, right? BB obviously had his disastrously bad period, but then came full circle in a way that I actually didn't think he would. It was so bad, I genuinely didn't think BB would ever be like a top.
His MSI was one of the worst tournaments he's ever played.
And just before MSI, he was abysmal as well. So that was just, or was it just after? I can't remember. Either way, but because G2 like ramped up so heavily, and also I think like Keire said, like whenever I look at someone like BB, I'm always like, do I want him to be a bit better? So it's like internationally you feel really good about him. Yeah, sure. But any change you make most likely is actually going to be worse on average just because of what he gives that team in his own sort of unique way. And if he is better, whoever you bring in is better, like say they just traded for Canna or something, like what is how much is the added value? Like how much do you lose on what like BB's intangibles or whatever, or the things that
you're not even that much better at Rumble.
Like how much you actually, I don't know. I think it's not, I don't think it's worth it. And with Labrov, as I said, like Labrov was not very good at the start of the year. Obviously, I'm going to be biased towards Labrov regardless. Labrov was not like amazing at the start of the year. At the end of the year, he was, but at the end of the year, he was actually the best European support. He just was. He was better than Mickey in playoffs. He was better than Alvaro in playoffs by a lot. I know Alvaro shut the bed in playoffs, so maybe that's a bit unfair. But actually, if you're being factual, Labrov was the best support in the league, guys, at the end of the year. He just was. And I don't actually think Busio is that much better than Labrov. I think Busio is interesting because their strengths are like don't overlap that much. Like Labrov, even though Skumon and Labrov's synergy like improved over the year, Busio is definitely still like the better out of lane support, I would say. Like he still feels more comfortable to me with his map movements. And the picks that you mentioned as well aren't really. I know Labrov tried to play Bard, but I wouldn't say Bard is a Labrov pick.
Great, yeah.
Whereas it obviously is a very strong one for Busio. I don't think things like Thresh are things that Busio wants to play, but obviously, and weirdly, I remember the first time they picked the Thresh, it was so fucking bad. We were all just sat here like, this was awful in every way, shape, or form. Composition-wise, it was terrible. Gameplay-wise, it was like, what was the plan here? And then he like picks it, I think, twice more during the year. And we're like, what the fuck? And they were really good both times. I think they actually lost one of the games, even though he was having like an unbelievably good game on it. And we're like, well, is a champion worth picking? But the point is, their strengths are like very different from each other. And as I said, because they ramped up rather than slowly went downhill, I think this is just what you do, most likely. I think it is logical. I agree that I guess there's a small chance that it's like if you roll the dice on Busio and he's just like one of the greatest ever Western supports, like if that is kind of what we feel about him anyway, and then you add it to G2 and does it just take them to some crazy level, I guess you miss out on that potential timeline. But as Keire said, I'm not even sure that would be the reality. Like they might actually just get worse. Like, I don't know. So either way, I also think chucking in the progress that Skumon, Labrov, and the team as a whole made over the year is kind of crazy. So I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it basically. Another team who didn't make any changes, so we're not going to spend too much time talking about them, is Giants. I think this is underwhelming but not unexpected. We talked about different players during summer about, you know, who should really feel like they're fighting for their place on their teams, like who needs to prove something, who's in theory going to be safe or whatever. And I think we'd all probably agree that like Noah, Jun, if you could hold on to them, you probably want to do that. I think we saw a lot of the upside that those guys provide over the year without too much of the downside. I know that they did both have dips here and there, but overall, you want to keep Jun, you want to keep Noah. I think those were no-brainers, and good on them for being able to keep both of them. Lot and Jackies, I think, were two players that we were like, you know, these are make a decision at the end of the year kind of players. So that's what it felt like for different reasons, right? One is a prodigy who hasn't fulfilled that moniker, and the other one is a fairly unknown player for most fans of the LEC. It's like, show us what you've got, rookie kind of thing. Both of these, to me, again, they're underwhelming but not unexpected. Isma, I think he earned another year on the team. So to me, that's, you know, absolutely fine. Nymaera, what do you think about I would assume you'd have similar opinions for the most parts on the three that I mentioned. But when it comes to Lot and Jackies, like, what are your sort of thoughts on this one?
Yeah, agreed on the three. I think Isma, Noah, and Jun keep that core. I think they showed an upside. My worry about Jackies is I think he regressed this year quite heavily compared to what we considered of him last year. There were some flashes of light, particularly I think parts of winter. Parts of winter. It felt like Jackies was pulling his weight, and it felt like a lot of the rest of the team wasn't at that point. I mean, once you get past that point, I think his laning was off. I think that when he started going on to war, I mean, there was that triple mask Akali game, which lives on in infamy, right? Despite that, it's okay game. It was like an okay build, I suppose, if you look at it in isolation now. It was just kind of like, whatever. The play wasn't so much. I think that, Jackie's, I think he's quite lucky to have this starting spot after the year. Lot, he had a pretty awful time in winter and spring. Well, his winter was okay, and then start of spring was very bad up until he reached Madrid, and then at Madrid, and then after for the rest of spring, he was actually pretty good. And then summer was better than spring, but it wasn't. I don't think it was standout. So I think that as it stands, the solo laners are the weaker part of GiantX. I haven't even begun to consider how the meta will affect this and their picks, because if it's still fearless, the massive changes coming through will have a whole bunch of different implications. I like the fact that Jackie's played stuff like the Scion mid up in that 1 or 2 games throughout the last year. I thought he was actually very good at that. There was that one game he played. Was that versus Heretics? Maybe it was versus Heretics in one of the games they played against them.
Or G2.
It was MKOI. I can't remember. He played the Scion mid once or twice, and that was pretty good. Yeah, so I mean, I can see what GiantX are hoping for, and they're trying to keep this team together and see if they can like really ignite a spark in them. My worry is that I tried to trust this team throughout the entirety of last year, and they delivered in almost zero promises. And I haven't seen anything different, which says they're suddenly going to start being more consistent. So what else do you want us to say? You know, you got to prove that this investment of faith in you is worth something, because there wasn't a lot of repayment on that last year.
I want to hear from Gilotto if he, you know, what his predictions are for his own team in G2 going into next year. That's all I'll say. I think that's what every interviewer should lead with. But yeah, Keire, thoughts on this one? It's just a bit of a nothing burger, really, isn't it? I mean,
yeah,
what's the goal of this team? Yeah. That's what I don't get. What's the goal?
You've got a bot lane that provides more than it does on paper, has long-term synergy. June often makes good individual engages that are disconnected from the map. Your solo laners are supposed to be the best part of the team. They're not. It just inspires nothing. You know what I mean? Like this team's going to be like forced to fast, take games off of some people sometimes. Like
anti-clutch. They're still anti-clutch. I mean, like, the story of this team was they had a lot of potential and they were anti-clutch. There were points where we thought they could actually, like, top out in the group system in summer because they had, like, a good first series or something. And then, like, was it MKOI they bottled the game 3 against? Or was it KCorp? They had, like, a couple of bottle jobs in summer as well where I just thought, look, this whole year they just didn't deliver in the high-pressure moments besides Madrid.
This is a team, Rich, that when we talked about, like, Heretics, you know what I mean? And I was like, oh, I use this term because it's the easiest to conceive it, even though I don't believe in it. It's like, when you go into a week and you just draft standard versus G2, what do you actually expect to get out of that week? Like, what did your prep and all of esports history that we know of make you think that is going to be your highest percentage of winning that specific week? Okay, GiantX are in that bracket now. They need to be doing stuff that's just not what everyone else is doing. They need to be carving their own path, trying their own shit, like wearing their own aftershave, or like, you know what I mean, smelling different from everybody else. Like, they've got to try and find unique strategic angles because their individual players aren't good enough. And as a 5-man unit, their coach isn't good enough to bring them together to override the how much worse they are individually. And so you're going to need strategic a component to it, a compositional component to it, like ideas, things that you can bring onto the rift or bring onto the battlefield that give you a force multiplier against your opponent. Because you should know who you are. Unless you think Jackie's is just going to like 10x and turn into Chovian Knight next year, fucking Noah's actually, you've got Ruler and fucking Lot's just keen. Like, I don't know what you think is going to change the outcome. You're not Mad Lions. Mad Lions went and got Jojo to increase the variance. They won one split when G2 came down. They have an ex-LEC champion jungler. They have one of the most promising bot lanes in the whole league. And their top laner literally redesigned himself. He was literally playing all these ranged carry picks and all that, and then he was playing the Kassantes, the Scions, the tank matchups every single fucking game. Merwin really redesigned himself, and guess what? They're rewarded with a championship. But you're not them, so you've got to do even more than them. So it is a nothing burger, but it just annoys me that it's just going to be the most flatulent team.
I mean, I'm going to steal or coin a phrase that my friend at university used called ugly boy syndrome, right? Which is I caught him once, right? Reading a book. Who was it by? It was I don't know if it was Dante or I can't remember what it was. It was some sort of deeply philosophical book that he was either reading or pretending to read. And I was like, what are you doing? And he was just like...
a novel, Atlas Shrugged.
Yeah, he was basically like, look, I see how it is, okay? I've been out every student night for however long. It's just not working for me. I need a new angle. I need something up my sleeve. I need to have an edge.
The X Factor.
And I was like,
the giant X Factor.
I was like, all right, so your edge is philosophy. It's like, well, you know, I'm going to be the funny, interesting guy. I was like, geez, no one's ever thought of that angle. But yeah, and he was like, well, what can I do? It's the ugly boy angle. So I'm going to steal that phraseology and turn it into a League of Legends term. But yeah, Giants have the ugly boy syndrome. They need to find a different way of competing than the traditional sort of, you know, mating primitive rituals. And how they do that, I don't know. All I know is Jackie's a lot. you got to sort it out, because I don't ever think a team has won with 2 subpar solo laners in the history of League. I don't know if that's ever happened. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know if that's ever happened. So yeah, while Nymaera strains to think of when a team has done that. Let's move on.
Well, not in Europe.
To the next team. And the next team is going to be KC. So KC, they're obviously keeping Canna, which didn't look on the cards, to be honest, at the start of the off-season, but they are keeping Canna somehow. Yike obviously stays. They've signed Keire, who, for people...
It's Yahoo. It's pronounced, I think. Yahoo.
Yahoo!
Previously DRX mid laner. They've got Reapered as coach, which is interesting. We talked a little bit about that last episode, about the reasons why they maybe have gone down that route. They have obviously kept Kalist, and as we spoke about before, they brought in Busio from NA. So yeah, my initial thoughts on this are really interesting team. I think this is one of the hardest to predict teams in terms of how it's going to go. Yeah, I don't know. There seems to me, Nymaera, like there's a big spectrum of how this team could potentially perform. But what are your sort of initial feelings on that? Does this look like a strong team on paper to you, or do you have more sort of questions than answers?
Well, you've torn apart a couple of duos, right? Because mid jungle's changed, jungle support's changed, and then bot lane synergy's changed as well. So you're rolling some dice with that, as you will be for the start of the season. You'll see how that works out. I think KC last year, they really succeeded earlier on in the year when the meta was more about slower considered map rotations, and when they were playing way more around stuff, obviously like the Maokai, which of course continued through the year, but felt like as the year went on and it got further in, it was more about being able to pull the trigger on aggressive jungle support plays. So stuff like the Vi, the Xin Zhao dashing, and of course Yike is typically a very good Xin Zhao, but I think on the whole, KCorp were better at the slower standoffs than the fast aggressive plays. And I think that Yike and Targamas weren't as successful of that style of gameplay as the year went on. I think Busio will give them potentially better aggressive playmaking options. Now, I think that Targamas actually had a pretty good 2025. I don't think he was a bad player. I think he, especially compared to 2024, I think Targamas had a good year. Yeah, I do think that Busio, though, is still the best Western support. I think that he potentially has the ability to be, an aggressive playmaker in a way which KCorp were lacking a little bit more as the year went on, unless Canna was just really obscenely far ahead. It did kind of feel like after a while the game plan was Canna gets ahead on a matchup where she can snowball. We'll play around that. Didn't really have a second string to the bow once Vladdy became a bit of a passenger, and bot lane weren't exactly throwing their weight around in the way they needed to win splits and win tournaments. Of course, they bowed out last year in just the worst possible way when Canna just got diffed by Oscarinin, it sucks because Canna had a real shout at actually being like LEC Player of the Year. Like I was on the shortlist at the very least, and it's just like that one series. Yep, Oscar had his number, completely destroyed him. It happens sometimes. By the way, it sucks that it happened. Yeah.
Very quickly, do you not think it's kind of odd? This is one of the first years I can remember this happening, where 2 players who we can all like levy some criticisms at, but I think we all agree at least have a bunch of talent and certainly some kind of LEC level. They're just not in the league. Like Oscar, will he stay? Won't he? But he's just not in the league. Targamas, will he stay? Won't he? He's just not in the league. Like, I think it's quite odd. Like,
and it's not like they've transferred to another region when it was like Inspired and Whippo
exactly.
went off and whatever.
It's just they're just not in the league. I just find that quite odd, especially for Targamas, I think, who maintained a top half of the league status as a support player for most of last year. To just be out, for no other teams to be interested, particularly when you look at some of the players that like are still in the league, I do find quite strange. I mean, not to single him out too much, but like Fleshy's on Vitality. Are we saying he's better than Targamas? Like, I don't know.
I mean,
some of these
there are some other people which I feel bad for. I somewhat understand it's like on the borderline. I actually think Kadui had a pretty good year, and I'm a little sad to see him not around.
Yeah,
as well.
Another one. Kadui for drop. But yeah, that is strange.
Although, funnily enough, Yopper, another player I used to cast back in like NLC like 22 odd, Yopper and Clocks, I think was the M&M bot lane. I think Jamada was actually the coach of that team for a while. Weird, small world. Yeah, I mean, in every off season, there are a couple of people you can point to and go like, "Yo, why don't they have a space or something like that?" For instance, in terms of like ERL level, like Exakick had a really good year. Surprised to see him not necessarily get a shot, and I guess we'll talk about KC Blue after this, after KC after this. Legolas had a great year as well, another ERL AD carry, and he was like,
Actually, I watched this one.
Yeah, and he was talking really big about in terms of like, "Yo, like this, I deserve a shot."
I'll tell you why he doesn't though. I'm sorry,
Mm-hmm.
you can't call yourself Legolas. It's just stupid. That is just a stupid name. You can't. I mean, imagine if there's a support player called Frodo.
Thought it H2K rich, right? Okay.
Yeah, that's right. If in doubt, just use your actual name. Why not? Like, I mean,
you're saying a support player can't be called Gimli. You're going for Frodo's. You can imagine Legolas and Gimli bot lane. It'd be banger.
If it was a Frodo Sam bot lane, I might be like, all right, you got me there. That's kind of Kino.
Do you remember that Rockat's top laner called Steve?
Yeah.
Even though his name wasn't Steve.
Great name, great guy. Yeah.
It was actually he was actually a decent player. He's all right.
Yeah, he was all right. But yeah, I mean, this every off season there are like, every off season there's like a couple of players which feel really hard done by. There are constant questions about the GMing in Europe. I think I said it before we were recording the show. I was looking through all of the roster changes and like, I guess we'll get to this, I suppose, more in depth at the end. But I don't feel like a lot of the roster changes across the entire cohort of LEC make me change my opinion like internationally. Like regionally they're interesting, but I don't think we've come out of this offseason being like, yo, crazy, this will change everything. Maybe KC is the closest to it, but again, they're rolling some dice on some synergies. Are Yike Boost here going to join up in the right way? Yahoo coming in. I believe this guy like maintained top 3 Korean challenger the entire year. While he was still in Korea.
He has like a bit of a lottery pick, to be honest. I'm not gonna lie, but the problem is he's the same way. He's the same type of lottery pick as like someone getting Bulldog, and like nobody raves about fucking Bulldog, do they?
We both know a particular journalist who loves Bulldog. So come on.
As a bad example, but you get the point I'm trying to make. Like Bulldog is a very highly touted like player, skilled player. He's trying to be a bus driver. He isn't. He potentially sometimes crashes the bus.
I prefer this than Polby though, just because I felt like Polby was more of a known quantity, and it was kind of like Polby. As I said, Polby was kind of exactly what you thought it would be. This guy, it's like, okay, we have less data. He's been top 3 challenger. Well, it's more interesting. I'm not going to say it's going to be good or whatever, but to me, this is like a more interesting gamble than Polby, who I didn't even consider a gamble. It was just kind of whatever.
Well, the whole thing about Poby was that he was the textbook player. If you wanted him to play a known matchup, you'd get good consistent value out of it. If you wanted him to be a more creative playmaker, well, perhaps that's not the player you want to be looking for then. And I think we saw that with like some of his poor Randy games, but actually well, I suppose his Rise was maybe the exception to that rule, where he was actually pretty good at using that role more. But like when he was on stuff like the Orianna and whatever, get good value out of him. I guess Yahoo is a bit more of the kind of firecracker, I suppose. Which I suppose Vladdy tried to do that a bit more in spring after he came back from First Stand and he went towards the Silas Akali and the Yone and whatever, as opposed to the majors he did in winter. But I mean, I suppose you've got double Korean solo laners now. I don't know how that changes the culture at all. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of dice rolls that can't be caught. I could see this topping out, if you high roll and everything. Yeah, I think there'll be a more aggressive version of the team that they were last year. You still got, Yike is a very good team fighter on AD skirmishes and tanks. He's a very good Sejuani Maokai player. Kana can absolutely be the primary carry in a way that basically no top laners in Europe can be in the way that he is on stuff like the Rumble and the Jace. Kalista, if he gets to scale up into the game, very talented team fighter. The question is basically, where are these dice rolls going? Are the synergies going to click? If they don't, how long do they take to click? And how does it change the overall flavor of the team? Because actually they were very good at kind of clutch team fighting, turning on a dime to find a certain pick in the team fight, but they just they lost a lot of aggressive synergy throughout the year, and that needs to be something that needs to get addressed. Yeah, and maybe Reaper can do that. I don't know.
What are your thoughts on KC, Keire? Do you like this lineup?
Oh. It's just you ask him, and the kid to call drops. Okay, let me read into the mind of him. So what are the bingo cards we've got for him? Know Thyself, Bus Driver. the
he's
role
back.
player. I'm trying to go through the buzzwords which you'd use, Keire. You know, see if we could piece together what you'd say on your
We were
absence.
preparing Keire cosplay in case you didn't reconnect. But yeah, what are your thoughts on KC?
Like I'm just trying to use terms that like getting my point across in terms of like Bulldog's trying to be the best player on like a LCK team. He's 10th. You know
Oh no,
I mean?
this is about KCorp as the team now. With the rest, yeah, we lost
all
you
right.
for a bit, right?
So like my computer just crashed.
Good.
The thing about it is like, yeah, like it can inspire something. This team could potentially do something. You know what I mean? This team at least makes sense.
But this is the one set of changes which could actually like top out at something interesting internationally.
Yes.
I don't think it would be, you know, I'm not gonna say, oh, you know, this is like really gonna slam everything together. They're definitely going to be winning splits and going to first stand, MSI, blah blah blah. But at least with a high roll, I can see this team doing something. I don't think any of the other changes in Europe give me that feeling.
Oh no, there's definitely one later on. Come on.
I think this team is super interesting. Again, I feel mega strongly about it. He's talking about vitality, Nymaera, but he's definitely way too excited. Right. Yeah, I don't know. I think, you know, as you said, what will this team roll? That is really the question. Obviously, that's a question with every team, but particularly with so many unknowns. Yeah, I don't know. I think it'll be interesting. By the way, we will not be talking about either KC Blue or Los Ratones. I do not consider them to be LEC teams, even though they will be participating in.
But why are they participating in the LEC?
It's a great question, Keire. It is a fantastic question.
Can we talk about one player just for like shits and giggles?
Is it Nemesis?
No. Me and Rich were walking back from the World Championship. Faker had just been crowned. We'd had a little drink, and we're walking back, and Rich said to me, because I was saying to him, I don't think the bounce, it isn't just like, what he's doing isn't just like good. I think it's literally some of the best things you can be doing in League of Legends. And Rich said to me, he's like, anyone in ERL will be able to beat the bounce as long as he's not on Sion, right? And he will literally lose to like every single person as long as it isn't on Sion. Back-to-back EA Masters champion, second place EA Masters champion.
First of all, right? When it actually came to like EU, because NLC, it doesn't mean anything. Like these are unpaid like diamond players, whatever. I don't care. When it comes to EU Masters, how much was the Bowls really winning? I know his team won, but how much was he really winning?
He had some bad games, but he had some Galio games where he's just like the best player in the
Hey, don't get me wrong. I obviously he outperformed my expectations for him, but I'm not like, you know, sat here being like, fuck you know, imagine this guy in LEC. Like, I know I'm moving the goalpost now because it was, you know, what will he do in the ERLs? Now it's what will he do in LEC? I think basically the good ERL top laners had their way with him. The bad ones didn't, and it's going to be worse against LEC teams. Like, that's better.
I actually don't think like, so I think it's worth talking about it a bit, right? Because let's be honest, we got to give the people what they want, and they do want to hear about what we think Lost Ratones are going to do in LEC. Because like, I actually don't think the problems for Lost Ratones will come mainly from the Baus, actually. I think actually a lot of it's going to come from jungle support, because I think that Velia, when he comes up against, like, I mean, when he came up against Yukino, it was disaster, pretty much. Yukino, for KC Blue, is genuinely a very, very talented guy. I don't know, because obviously KC Blue is changing so much, which is such a sad thing, by the way, the fact that, like, they qualify for LEC in terms of the LEC Winter, whatever thingy they're calling it now. And then you just change a whole bunch of the team. That just hurts. I don't know. I would have liked to see the team stick together to see what they could do. Especially
shouldn't even be allowed, some might argue.
The way that it is, you know, if that's if you're going to qualify like that, you would like to see the actual core of that team still, you know, stick together. And that's not really happening.
If you qualify for something, I mean, call me crazy. I think the people that qualified for it should probably play the event. I don't know.
Yeah. But like with the RIOTs, I think that there was actually a post on Reddit which I think it described it pretty well. It's like Reckless is like hitting level 7 like 2 minutes earlier than most other supports. And while there are some supports which make good use of that, I think it was Delight which did very well at that on HLE.
Yeah,
and if you look back to very famously 2021 Worlds, where D plus Keire played Maokai support, and they used that to rush level 6 for Herald fight against T1 in the semi-finals, and they kind of use that support XP advantage to kind of go wild. That you can use it for certain things. However, for a team which is now going to go up against stronger laners, when you're not going to be able to bust things open as much, and the Rats they're not a good early game team. Like across everything else, they're actually a very talented team at like thinking things up on the fly. But they're not a very good early game team. And if Reckless is kind of soaking XP instead of being more flexible on the map to respond to threats and put down vision, that could be an issue. And Velia, I think he's actually a very talented player. I think this guy could actually really be made into something. As it stands, I think that a lot of pressure is put onto him because laners don't move for him as easily because they have very clear ideas about how they want to play, and a lot of it falls down to Velia just trying to scramble his way through the early game as well. If you're going to beat Lost Ratones, you attack them through jungle support, and then the laners start falling apart without the scaffolding around them. And I think that could be an issue against a lot of the teams here. Even though, like, you know, I think there's a wide variety of jungle supports within LEC. I think that they'll still be able to push the Rats around a fair amount.
You know, my biggest issue with this team is like, cool, they're staying the same roster, whatever. Yeah, cool, nice to see. This team, clearly, what this team needs is a really good coach. I mean, that's just obviously what they need. The one thing you can basically actually do, like really visually have a massive impact on as a coach in League of Legends, is the early game. And Los Ratones, early game, sucks. In fact, one of the biggest praises you can give to Los Ratones is how insane some of their come from behind wins have been, considering how unbelievably bad and far behind they've been in early games. Like, if you have a coach who comes in and like orchestrates
come from behind type of guys,
like the first 15 minutes of the game, which by the way you can do, especially it's even easier in like lane swap metas now. I don't know. We'll see what happens, what the meta is. I don't know. Like to me, Yamato Cannon is such an interesting figure in the sense.
There we go, rat.
But it's interesting in the sense that like there are obviously, you know, people have agendas for fairly transparent reasons or whatever, but there seems to be a pocket of people who are just like, I mean, Yamato Cannon, like, what an amazing coach. Like, he deserves all the jobs in the world. And then there's another pocket of people who are like, Yamato Cannon fucking sucks. What has this guy ever done? Now, I wouldn't put myself particularly in either camp, but I would say that the latter camp has, like, maybe more evidence to suggest or to support their position. Like, what has Yamato Cannon done? Ever?
Oh, he's done loads.
Yeah, but that's good, Keire.
Got Fnatic with a role swap player to LEC finals, and then took a game over Mad Lions in that LEC final.
Wait, sorry, which? Who?
He coached the Whipple upset lineup.
Yeah.
They beat G2 in the BO5. He had fucking Niski as his mid laner who couldn't play melees.
You think?
Go, Rich.
No. You think he was coaching that team, mate? You think that was his decision to put Whippo in jungle?
No, I never said it was his decision. I said he coached that team.
He was there. I'm sure he was there. I don't. Okay,
right?
Whatever. Anyway, whatever.
Bro, you asked the question.
We don't need to litigate.
He's got answers for my agenda. Fuck.
No, we don't need to litigate his whole career. I don't believe, and even more so, I think Yamato did a lot of harm to his own narrative by live streaming their scrims. Because if you watch that, obviously you can always, you know, sit back on the.
That was for Ruddy, right? When he was on Ruddy and Endlessy.
Yeah. I mean, if you watched any of those streams and you came away thinking this guy was a good coach,
no, I think those are the Ruddy ones. They're shit shows. The Ruddy one when he's sitting trying to explain
half the players weren't connected at all.
Yeah, basically. But when he was trying to explain to Hums about like vision in the bush, right? Okay, like there was bits of me dying, right? That was like an LS moment of like use the put aside of your brain to look inside the bush.
I mean,
that was
I'm not, as much as it might sound like I'm not actually not making like sweeping statements about Yamato Cannon. I just find it really weird that there's just these two such extreme camps of like he's obviously a really good coach, look at his CV, and the other camp's being like, look at his CV, it's dog shit. And it's like,
well, he's the one coach in the West like that has an active personal brand. Very few each do, and that will polarize opinions, you know.
But I mean, I assume, being cynical, I assume that's part of the reason why he's also coaching Los Ratones. Yeah, he's done lots of interesting things. He went to coach fucking Sandbox in Korea. That was also interesting. Like, I don't know. Like, I find
they came fifth. Their best place ever.
I mean, sure. I mean, anyway.
You go right. You go.
Didn't Sandbox? No, Sandbox came last.
I'm just messing with you on
They
that
came
one.
10th. I'm sure they came 10th.
I think
Anyway.
You're spreading misinformation
Yeah, what is
on our,
it? What is
on
it? I wasn't going to
our
say anything. I was like,
honourable
wait a minute. No,
podcast,
they
Keire?
definitely
No,
came.
I
They
just
definitely
wanted to
came
see. I
last.
just wanted to see if I could get it by rich. See what I could get by rich.
Hey,
Sometimes
nothing
Kira's
gets
like,
past
what
me,
am I
Keire.
going to say to get the headline on Reddit this time?
Bro, I've actually Reddit never talks about me, which is
That's
impressive
true,
in
yeah.
its own right.
No, I actually.
Funnily enough,
watched,
Sam got the last one. Remember, the last one we had was Sam like going to ad absurdum saying like inspired us, talked about us. Perhaps the Western Goat, perhaps the Western Goat jungler. People were like, these analysts saying that inspired is the best jungler ever. Yankos erasure. Like, do you not know what hyperbole?
That thread was a banger. Well, it wasn't even hyperbole. I think he literally said something like, some people have argued that. It was like something like that. And it's like, this guy just claimed that. It didn't claim anything, though.
God forbid we have a sake for the dramatic, you know?
And the best part about that thread is everyone reading it, for some reason, assumed that I'd said it, and they didn't even click on the video, and I'm just like, whatever. And I actually probably rate Inspired higher than Sam does, so...
Sam was actually very proud of having his first quote out of context thread on Reddit. You know, long may he reign.
It's a banger. Anyway, even though we did obviously touch on Lost Ratones there, we will be doing a preview, obviously, of the... I don't even know what are they calling it? LEC First Strike or something, some shit. Anyway, we'll do a proper preview of when that happens, and we'll go into more depth on Lost Ratones and also on... KC Blue, obviously. But for now, moving on, who do we have next, Nymaera? Oh, well, KC.
Monster Koi.
KC are staying the same.
Well, we talked about KC before, so I mean, is there any like last thoughts on that?
Oh, sorry, KC, Koi.
Yeah, we've got Koi. Yeah.
Yeah, Koi. Sorry, Koi is staying the same. And including coach, I believe. How do we feel about this one?
I think one of their other coaches left. I think, in fact, I'm wondering if it was one of the last coaches they had from the Mad Lions era left. Maybe one of like the support staff as well. So I think MKOI have like kind of like consolidated to mainly being Koi now, and I think like the last vestiges of Mad Lions are now gone.
Right. Okay. So looking at this roster now, this is like just, I guess more than anything, maybe playing a little bit of devil's advocate. I don't necessarily think this. I'm just throwing it out there. I think staying the same, not the worst thing in the world. But I'd maybe have looked, especially with the changes coming in, at the AD carry position. Why do I say that? If the game moves even more towards the game is on the AD carry, I probably don't want my AD carry to be the kind of AD carry that will have oopsies about 6 times a split. And based on evidence from last year, or this year just gone, Super currently is that guy. Very good AD carry, very talented, lots of upside, but as I said, if we are moving even more towards a sort of AD carry dominated era, let's say, I mean, Nymaera made the point of, you know, however it may have looked sort of holistically, fights were mostly still won and lost by can you get to the AD carry and kill him, or will he outdamage you before you can do anything about it? If you die early in a fight, you will probably generally lose that fight. I also remember we even went over it in one of these episodes earlier in the year, where they were really far ahead in the game, I think against G2. I'm pretty sure it was against G2, and he dives in top lane and dies. And
so the Orianna Shockwave.
Yeah, and MKOI was so far ahead in that game. I think it's something like 10k, 12k gold ahead, but they lost the fight very comfortably after he died. That is the power, or was the power, of the AD carry, and now we can only assume it's going to be even more so now.
Yeah, because then you look after the games at Worlds, he had the Corki game versus T1, where he stood in the brush, allowed the Kiana to go melee range of him, one-shot him when he was in a very good position. That was when they had a very good lead against them. The Vayne game had some better moments, but again, there was like one moment in there where he ended up not having a pretty bad death on the Vayne as well. So there were, I think even in the KT game, he was very far ahead as a single carry comp, and then he had a bit of an oopsie there too. So while there were some great phases of play in the game, there were like these specific flashpoints where it feels like he's just completely throwing away some hard-earned effort. And like, look, we've praised Super a lot on this podcast. We have, but you have to be fair and call out like, look, these are particularly against the T1 and the Corki game. I'm like, you actually had a realistic chance to run away with an early game into a victory, not only against KT Rosters, but then T1 later into it as well. And particularly that T1 Corki game, it was on him. He just allowed the Kiana to just wall stun him, instantly died before an objective fight.
Yeah.
That's just not something you can afford at the top level of play.
And obviously, whenever there's a problem or you offer up a problem, you should also probably have a solution to said problem rather than just complaining. And I think that is where maybe it gets a bit difficult, because what are you going to do? Assuming you're staying within your own region here, did you try
It is worth noting, by the way, MKOI, they extended some contracts with some players. I think they still have, I think it's Super and Mirwin under contract, but only until the end of this year. They haven't extended them. And if they, I think the implication was effectively, if they have a better year this year, then there will be the offer to extend. However, effectively they're like, look, we can't we can't extend it right now based off of the performances of 2025. I believe that's the implication.
By the way, it makes sense, because that was the other place I was going to go to, which is like, even though again, Moen, a player with lots of interesting upsides and sort of strings to his bow, is also someone where you might look at and think, okay, even that having said, could we upgrade there? So those are the two like semi-questionable positions for me. I think Elyoya, even though sometimes he doesn't always live up to his status as one of the greatest ever European junglers, you keep Elyoya, like, for sure. Jojo is a no-brainer for sure, especially because Jojo is someone who can get edges against people like Caps and Humanoid. I'm not saying he's better than them. I'm saying like he is capable in certain matchups, in certain games, of doing things to the top dogs that make you competitive to win titles, as we saw. And Alvaro is also a no-brainer. I know he had a horrible end to summer, but he's, we're not flush with talent in the support area in Europe, and you obviously keep Alvaro. So yeah, for me, those are the question marks. Keire, what do you think? Do you like that they all stay together? Would you have looked at anything here? What do you think?
I think the only thing you need, I don't think you change anything. I think you run it back with Jojo. This is something actually, when we come to talk about it, I think a lot of people haven't thought about recently in terms of what made T1 so like potent, in terms of the biggest voices and the people who are talking on the team are like staying the same, right? And I think that like keeping the units together is really, keeping the unit together is really important. You know what I mean? Like even BLG technically didn't stay together because Jun left the team. You know what I mean? So now, your Gen Gs, your BLGs, they're changing all the time. I know T1 changed top lane this year. But like, I don't think that's the same as changing a lot of like the talking macro roles. Mid lane being one of the biggest ones, particularly on the map. Seems like Jojo's like a large component of the team. The only thing I've really struggled with for this team is Elyoya Internationals. I think it's been really underwhelming. When I watch back the KT, it's actually painful to look at. It's not just Elyoya, I feel like there's loads of communication problems happening. I think this is like a heavy like vibes team. One of the biggest issues this team has is their team fighting can be a bit wank. I don't know how you practice it. You know what I mean? So it's just rough. But I think you definitely run the team back, and I'm glad to see them again, because like the players that are really enjoying this team, I hope to just see them keep on making strides. So yeah,
and I hope that Jojo's not hit with the Berlin winter debuff again.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah. Do you have any other thoughts on Koi, Nymaera? Do you think realistically, if they run it back, they're gonna be, challenging the likes of G2 and are possibly maxed out at KC, or do you think this is maybe?
Come on, Rich! You're forgetting that team.
Yeah, there's the Razor Cake. I mean, we'll see what happens with the meta, right? Like, there's a lot of big changes coming this offseason. Maybe Mirwin just finds like a golden thread the needle point into the meta. Realistically, if MKOI are going to contest in the way that they did last year, Yor and Alvaro need to regain form. I think that there were points at Worlds where he had brief flashes of that, but I think Alvaro, on the whole, his summer playoffs into Worlds was below the level I expected of him, and I want to see him back to that because he's a very good player when he's on form. So it's sad to see that take a dip. Super needs to regain form as well. That guy cannot keep being, the anti-clutch team fighter. He needs to take those leads and run with them. I think Jojo, he had one really bad game against Faker, right? The Orianna versus Azir, where he just got blasted in lane, I think it was. But I think on the whole, Jojo, pretty good year from him. And yeah, we'll see what Mirwin does with the meta. Though that being said, I actually think his on-meta picks like Cassante were better than his off-meta ones by the end of the year. So yeah, there's a lot of rolling dice for MKOI. They have the pieces there, but like really it comes down to Yoir Alvaro kind of like refinding that crazy angle which allowed them to be so aggressive and a pleasure to watch, actually, LEC. I really enjoyed watching this team when they were on form this year.
Yeah. Moving on to the artists formerly known as Rogue, Na'Vi, who have picked up Polby after he left Fnatic. Because I mean, to be honest, like that to me, a lot of people might have been surprised by that. I think the undertaking for a Korean person to like come over and live in Berlin and play for a team like I suspect that he really wanted to find a new team in EU and find it quickly, because it's not just that we're sat here frustrated like, oh great, you didn't even invest the time properly in this guy. It's like he's probably feeling the same, like I've done this huge move, took a chance, etc., just to like go home now because they're not going to renew me. So I wasn't actually that surprised to see this, even though I think a lot of fans might be like, kind of a weird move. So obviously he's on the team replacing Larson. Thank God. Again, Keire's prediction has now officially come and gone. It happened. He's just donezo. He's gone. His best years, presumably, are also gone.
And Freddy as well. The jungle coach.
Thank God.
The coach mid synergy.
Even everyone's sitting reading that particular World War II newspaper in the bunkers. That's all I'm going to say. You know the meme?
Yeah. So Mainter, who has been a mainstay at the top of the ERL scene for the last, God, it seems like 3 years now. I think he's been touted as like one of the absolute best top laners. He has joined the team. Relic, that'll do. That makes way more sense, and that's also, I believe, what he's actually called. So Relic is in the jungle. Bit weird. Like I actually thought that Thagar was like not bad, actually, to be honest, when he played.
He kind of got screwed over, remember, though, because like he signed without knowing that like they were like very kind of set on him not being there next year. But yeah,
I don't think he did himself any harm. Like I think his performances were like okay-ish, considering how bad the team was and how basically everyone knew that would not be the team going forward. I don't think he stood out really, but then again, that might actually be a positive to not stand out in the worst ways. So Han Sam D, fucking hell, name change, please, buddy. Like, come on.
He actually did put a poll up. It's like, does he change back to Sam D, or is he just going to stay as it? I think the consensus is until he faces Han Sama, he'll keep the name, and then he might change it.
Great. Brilliant, thanks. Thanks, buddy. That's worth about 3 tweets. That's about it. Anyway, so he's still there. Didn't think he was great, actually, to be honest, in his initial performances. Certainly didn't think that would be like an automatic they keep him here, but whatever, he is. And Paris has found his way from BDS onto this team. I think this is the classic case of someone who was so highly touted for so long, even though they were pretty crap, let's be honest, overall on BDS this year. People are like, well, he was just so highly touted, we've got to take a chance on him. By the way, didn't they do exactly this with Zoalez? Or actually, maybe that was Zoalez's first team. I can't remember.
No. Rogue was his first team, and he looked very quiet.
But then did he go to another LEC team after that, or am I chatting nonsense? No,
I don't think he did. I think he was...
anyway, I would suggest that this guy takes the same path as Zoalez and not get another immediate chance, because I think he was very disappointing versus what his stock was prior to playing a game in LEC. But whatever, I don't necessarily hate it. And Freddy is gone, as you mentioned before, who for me, I'm sorry, is a perpetual underachiever given the rosters he's had over time. So yeah, that is Na'Vi's team. What do we think, people? Keire, what do you make of this lovely roster? Have you even seen half of these players play? Seen much of Mainter?
I've seen Mainter play. I have no idea about the jungler. I know who Han Sam D is. I know Paris. Obviously, I know Pobe. Just whatever, burger. What a waste of time. Fucking scrap it, move on. Hopefully, you can give like a platform to one of these players to like progress somewhere else. Maybe give Pobe more time to like develop. But I don't know. Again, like. This literally just looks like your gran got you a fucking selection box of like players for Christmas, and you just put your hand in and pulled out a bunch of chocolates. But I don't know that much about the players, so I'll reserve ultimate judgment.
Relic was in LFL last year. I think he won LFL Spring, then lost out. I think he's in semi-finals to Lost Ratones, and then I don't think he played in summer. So I guess my overall vibes for this team are I don't know who the safe hands are. I don't know what. Typically, when you're particularly when you're looking for your first forays into, and let's be honest, this is the real first foray for Navi because last summer was kind of like a transition split. You want to have like some solid pieces to build around. I don't really know who that is. I don't really know who's going to be leading this team inside of the game or outside of it. The Rock as a coach, quite an interesting bloke actually. He's been because he was a caster who was
The
like
Rock and his minions.
it was
That's what we can call them now.
Vasilis the Rock. He was like a crucial part of like the Greek scene GLL. And I've crossed past him a couple of times there just because we were ERL casters at the same time. I reached out to him I think once or twice about some GLL stuff back in like 2021, 22. But yeah, I don't see where the safe hands are here. I don't know exactly how you build up a team like this. I really hope that they come in with just like a fire lit under them and they just roll a load of dice and they just try and make a huge impact. The worst thing that this team can do is play scared and passive and just hope that someone else takes up the burden. Because this is one of those teams where like they need to come out and shock people because I don't see who the star is on here. I don't think that somebody was particularly impressive last split, although I know he has a decent upper level. My problem is then I guess Poby is the textbook matchup player. He's not going to be I guess maybe he could be the safe pair of hands, but someone else needs to feed off of that who's going to take that kind of, I guess, more stable matchup in the mid lane and do something with it. I'm not sure. I think Poby had quite a poor Worlds in terms of individual matchups, but then again, Fnatic was just a dumpster fire at that tournament. And I guess my last thoughts about it is, okay, well, Paris, I think it was, God, who's talking about it? It might have been, there was a coach that was saying Paris maybe didn't have the best. If he'd gone to G2, maybe you would have seen him develop into a much better player, but because of actually being on BDS last year, it didn't feel like he had the right like team or system to work within to develop. I mean, I cast this guy down at ERLs for a long time as well, Paris, when he was over on Wildcats. And he was actually very impressive there, very good like Nautilus player, heavy engaged player. And yeah, I hope that we can see a better second crack for him. I'm glad he's earned himself a second crack. Again, we've talked about one of the foibles of Europe is that a player comes in for a split, bottles it a bit, or doesn't show up much, and then he's just gone. So hopefully Paris can show a little bit more. But I just don't know where the scaffolding is on this team. And I think that maybe Poby can be a safe pair of hands, but this is looking like a bottom echelon LEC team, really.
I agree. I don't really expect this team to make playoffs or do much, but we'll see. Another team I think is going to be pretty shit is SK Gaming. So SK Gaming, aka Mickey X's random.
It'll be interesting. Come on,
friends.
It will be.
Yeah, I mean, sure, definitely. The glorious return of Leader to the LEC. We'll see if he can play anything.
Gone too quick.
Which requires more than jumping on someone's face. Wonder is back in top lane to join Team Friends. Skeens, I believe, was the only player that maybe was like semi-decided on before Mickey got his mitts involved. So Skeens is obviously in jungle. If people remember, he was obviously had a stint on Vitality in the LEC.
He was like the flagship player of Vitality B, their ERL team. They really kept him on for a long time.
Yeah, and he is someone that, you know who he reminds me of? Keire. In that he is like the jungler's jungler. Like, people really respect Skeens in the way that like loads of people always had really good things to say about Keire. Now, Keire didn't always light it up in a way that people had hoped when he ended up playing in Tier 1 in Europe. There's some speculation as to why. Maybe he didn't manage his nerves particularly well. Maybe it was a case of solo queue didn't particularly translate too well to
like Rika, not actually dissimilar to that. Actually, Rika was really hyped from ERLs and never translated up to top tier. Not quite as bad as that. I think Rika was a standout case in that, sadly.
But Skeens has been around for a really long time now, and people have always talked highly of him, like behind the scenes, as it were. But he hasn't ever. To be fair, he's never really had like a massively extended period of time in the league where you can say, okay, but maybe this will be his moment now. So yeah, he's in jungle. As Nymaera mentioned earlier, Kadui's been replaced by Joppa, which seems
Yoppa,
which seems a bit random. Yoppa, another guy who's been constantly linked with possibly joining an LEC team, but never did. Similar to Kadui before he joined SK. To me, these guys are like, I don't know, they're very similar profiles of player. So I'm not particularly inspired by it. I thought Kadui did okay when he was in LEC. I think if Joppa did it as well as Kadui did, then he'd probably be just above par for what I would expect him to do. So that's a very odd one for me, but whatever. And then Loopy has gone, sayonara, bloody hell. Like, I don't know how many people remember Nisbeth.
Hasn't Loopy gone to Brazil now?
I don't. Brazil, he's out of sight, out of mind, Nymaera. That's all I know. I don't have to watch that support Elise play ever again. He was an abomination of a support player, as far as I'm concerned. And obviously, Mickey X is the actual support now of this team. So yeah, I think this team sucks on paper. I don't see the point. I don't see the identity. I don't understand what the hell this team is meant to be. I think Leader was a prestigious talent a very long time ago, like unironically 7 or 8 years ago. I don't think he ever lived up to it. I think he always showed sparks in LEC of like, oh damn, he is actually like a really good Aurelia or whatever, but even that was never consistent. When last seen in action, he was complete turbo trash in my opinion. In the NLC, couldn't even sort of.
Did he go into Astralis? Was that it? Was he there for a split swing?
I don't remember. I just don't understand it. I don't think he's LEC level. Wonder is an interesting one. He's like someone who historically has been like so good that you think like he could actually just be serviceable. And when he was last seen in LEC, he was kind of serviceable. He was very good at anti-turret dive, so you could kind of leave him playing weak side quite nicely. He didn't have too many more strings to his bow, I'd say, outside of that. It's not like he was inting or anything, but he was just hanging on to a certain extent, but he wasn't bad. He wasn't like a super weak spot. But I don't think you're going to get big carry performances out of Wonder at this stage of his career. I don't think, you're not going to be playing through top lane, put it that way. So where the fuck do you play through? Do you play through top lane, who is now a weak side player who hasn't played much competitive league for the last how many years? Do you play through mid lane, who, with all those foibles that I've already mentioned, like, is Leader going to be a reliable carry? Do you play through Joppa, who the rookie AD carry? Like, what is the game plan here, guys? Like, to be a top team, like, I don't know.
Joppa is a hyper carry player. Like, I think the champion I remember most fondly of his is Aphelios. That was obviously back in like 2021, 22 meta back then, but maybe this guy could be, someone you just play towards with Mickey. Just try and play towards hyper carries with him, especially if the meta heads that way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Is it I don't know. Keire, what are your thoughts on this team? What are your hopes and dreams for Mickey X?
They're like with the patch, and it's a split push team. You have Wonder and you have thing split push him. That's the best. That's it. You have Wonder and Leader. Wonder split iconic soul lane split push picks, and that's it. That's what you hope for.
There you have it.
Well, there you go.
That's SK Gaming.
I mean, obviously, like SK, they've gone for a, this is, to call it a dice roll, I don't think completely encapsulates what it is. But I mean, I feel bad that Kadui doesn't get a chance to stick around, because I think that guy's very good. Especially given how dysfunctional that team looked. I think Kadui is the one guy that really stood out as someone who kind of held his own. So I feel a bit bad for him. I'm happy that Yop has made it. Another person who I've randomly cast back in ERLs like 4 years ago at the start of my career. Mickey and Wonder, they're back together. I don't know exactly. I mean, maybe this is the kind of off season where they could do some weird shit, because if you think about 2019 G2, they were very creative, and Wonder would just do all sorts of crazy stuff on like, the like Rise Pike meta, where he would just like have that extra angle. Maybe a split pushing's back. Wonder was very good at that kind of very practice split pushing, whereas like we knew I had 30 seconds to take this turret, and he'll be able to do that because he understands the opportunity when it shows up. So maybe that's the kind of style which they could go towards as well, the split pushing that you're talking about, Keire. But yeah, this team is like, we haven't seen so many of these pieces together. There is no existing synergies from the last couple of years. The last time that we saw Mickey and Wonder play together was a while ago. Leader and Wonder did actually play like 1 or 2 games together on the Ruddy Sack in NLC, but that was a whole shit show, because that was kind of when everyone was kind of checked out mentally and they're doing it for content. So yeah,
that's great content.
It was really fun. Like to look at just this burning car crash of a team. God, but
I mean,
yeah, I
I
don't
would
know.
remind people
I don't
that
expect much.
multiple players from this team couldn't make it through the death-defying gauntlet that is the NLC playoffs. So take from that what you will. Yeah, I don't have much more to say about.
Like this team will hopefully be very fun, and they'll try and do something creative. Do I think they'll be good? No.
I honestly I hope obviously from every team I want some level of entertainment. I hope this team will be shit because I think orgs kowtowing, sorry, to nonsense like this is a joke. I think it's just stupid. Why the hell do you give this guy? This guy has historically awful opinions on other players. Like, why are you letting him build a team? It's just so stupid. And I think he built a crap team, and I hope they do badly because they deserve
Also
to do
worth
badly.
noting as well. And we mentioned this a couple of episodes ago, but just a reminder for those of you that missed the episode or it slipped out of mind, SK are now going to be based in Cologne, so they will be traveling from Cologne to Berlin every week. So not only will they be facing off against other LEC teams, they will also be playing against Deutsche Bahn, which are, for those of you who have not been to Germany, a small hint of mist in the air, a tiny bit of moisture on the tracks can... I know there's a lot of jokes about, the trains run on time. Not bloody well. No, they don't. They don't, actually. Which makes you think about, okay, well, SK, they've done away with their Berlin gaming house and office and whatever. Makes you think about their long-term commitment to the league. This is what Astralis did just before they dipped out as well. Oh, my camera's off. Good stuff. But yeah, I wonder whether SK... I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen with SK, honestly. But surely that's not going to help them, because that's still going to be like a five-hour trip, basically, from door to door to get to the studio or wherever, because they have to stay somewhere every weekend, right? If they got multiple games a weekend. So I don't know. Yeah. Okay, my camera's just continually dying. But yeah, I'm not sure about SK. I think that there's a lot of dice rolling. I don't see what the upside is massively though, besides just, crazy creativity.
Yep. Moving on to BDS, they've obviously kept Rooster in the top lane. I say obviously, as if that's a no-brainer. Not sure why. They've kept Bicada, which I do know why, because his transfer fee is now such a meme that you better hope it fucking works.
How much was it?
It's over 200 grand. It was either 200 or
250.
250. I think
right?
it's 250. So yeah, brilliant. They've kept Nuke, which I guess you do. I thought he had his worst period of play for a while, but whatever. They've also brought in Paddock, who was from KT Challenges, I think. The KT Challenges.
Chronicle's a big fan.
And welcome back to the region, Trimby. So yeah, that is BDS. I don't like this team. I'll just say that. I think people have mega overrated Trimby for the last however long that he's played when he was playing in LEC, in the year and a half or so before he left. His last period of play on Fnatic and his whole period of play on Heretics, I thought he was just living off some crazy name value in my opinion. I'm not saying it was bad, by the way, but that I don't know, people wanted G2 to sign him. I wasn't shocked that he was not in the league after that and buggered off to Brazil or wherever. I didn't think he was that good at all. So him coming back after spending a year in a minor region, yeah, I'm not really excited for that one, Chief. Not really too excited for that. Keeping Rooster, not really excited for that either. Keeping Bicada,
I don't think Rooster
really
was that bad.
No, what it wasn't.
I think
but
I actually thought it was pretty decent. It's just how could you look good on a team? Again, I thought that Rooster played like he was frustrated, and I can understand why, because that team was quite dysfunctional again. But I don't think he was that bad. And I think he's got a chance to.
It wasn't that bad. The thing is, Nymaera, you've got to look at it through the context of the team they had and then the team they opted into afterwards. BDS you can argue that BDS should have won at least one split once upon a time. They hit a window where G2 were not doing well, and BDS was looking easily the cleanest, most replicable, complete team, and they just kind of butchered that. But they were still in the peripheries of challenging, and now it's this. That's the problem. Now it's Rooster, Bicada, pack duck or whatever and
Paddock.
or wash
An absolute
Trimby.
fucking waste of time. Like, what
Yeah.
the fuck? Like, what are we doing? Like, this is so stupid. Like, this is it's just.
Okay, look, I think this is a better roster than last year. I think this is still an upgrade. I think that Trimby brings a sense of leadership or vocal play from support, because he is actually more vocal than many supports are in Europe. And I know he wasn't always, but I think, well, actually, no, he's like one of the few vocal supports. I think that's something which Europe has actually struggled with for a long time. Even someone like Mickey is actually quite soft-spoken a lot of the time. He's not someone, and he had that interview with Don Jake, and he was talking about how he's not really a leader archetype. I think Trimby, I wouldn't necessarily call Trimby a leader archetype either, but he is way more vocal. I think that he is an upgrade to Paris in Paris's current form. Ice for Paddock, not gonna lie, I don't really know what difference that brings. I guess Ice was a core part of BDS before. But I think BDS really needs someone to deliver them back to kind of like that Dragon setup team they were before. And, well, Trimby's better than Paris for that.
The thing is, Trimby being vocal, there's being vocal and there's being vocal, right? Like, actually, whatever.
Not vocal in a useful way, or
Larson's out of the league and Otto's retired now, so neither of them will mind me saying, like, Trimby's a comms clouder. Like, this guy is a comms clouder. He is a panic artist. He is I am going to say really useless things instead of saying useful things while you guys are trying to talk kind of player. Like, by the way, that information...
And honestly, what is in the past? As far as I was aware, that was something which he's worked on.
I was going to say, that information is a couple of years old. So take from that what you will. That was certainly the case, though. I don't know. I have no idea now if, like, he's improved on that. I guess from my side, I'm not going to speculate that he has improved on that because I have no reason to believe it. Maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. I don't know. But all I'm saying is, like, I don't think that Trimby is going to be adding loads of value from like a leadership comms role. Like, I do not see that happening. Like,
I very much trust him more to make the aggressive plays compared to Paris, who I think was quite unconfident, actually, sadly. You know, you look at what he was doing in Worlds with VKS. Like, he was just kind of like one man sending it. And yeah, did it lose him a bunch of games like that Karma game he played? Yeah, but he had like some sick games against PSG at Worlds in group stage. And I think that, you know, when they made it through to LTA finals, I think it was a big part of that too. You know, he was a large part of that turnaround. So I still think for the caliber of team that BDS in 2025 have been, I still think it's an upgrade. Now, do we think this is going to be like a good LEC roster? No, I think this will probably end up being contesting for mid-table, I suppose, given the level of some of the other teams. Maybe towards the bottom end of mid-table. We'll see whatever else clicks. But I still think that Trimby it fits in quite well to, I suppose, the support pool that we now have within LEC.
See, to me, there's actually, if I get rid of hindsight, this is less interesting than last year because Irrelevant on paper could have been like really good and cool as a
second. Just a quick aside on that. Did you guys see what BDS put out in terms of the farewell post for Irrelevant? Our collaboration did not work out the way that we wanted. Goodbye, basically.
Imagine, by the way.
That's a farewell post?
Imagine any serious sports organization posting something like that, by the way. Like, that is crazy. Like,
I might have to go find that because that was just like crazy. Like,
it is ridiculous. That is the kind of thing which makes me wonder, like, did this guy just, I don't know, harm your family or something? Like, that's so wild.
Booming the team.
Like, I don't know. That's crazy. But yeah, Keire, your any more thoughts on this magical BDS roster?
Fucking boring. It's just boring, isn't it? Like, whatever. Like, how am I supposed to know how they're going to look in it like that? Like, this team could be anything. Good's the only thing this team won't be. It could be. There you go. So yeah, that's where we're at.
I do suspect that this is probably... Oh, here we go. Let's pull that up then. There's the tweet.
Our collaboration did not turn out as we had hoped. Good luck in your future endeavors.
Also, good luck in your future endeavors is such a you have been fired like post, by the way. It's like, I don't know, your training period at our company did not go well. Good luck in your future endeavors. Like, I don't know. That's cold. Like, to me, that doesn't actually, I mean, this is purely speculative. That doesn't sound like incompetence. That sounds like we want to actually be a bit passive aggressive. Like, that looks deliberate.
Well, when you compare it to the rest of the tweets which they had, it's I don't know. Yeah. That one just felt just poorly worded, and I don't think anyone was commented about it. So yeah.
I don't even know if it is poorly worded in the sense
Yeah,
of what they wanted to do.
so the one for Paris, the Paris tweet was worded, "You were part of the best team in ERL history, bringing us the 2 trophies we were missing. Your arrival in the LEC did not go the way we hoped, but we remain proud to have welcomed you and contributed to your development over the past 2 years. Thank you for everything, Paris."
Okay, now I think it is incompetence because even that's not written very well. That like saying stuff like it didn't go how we. Why say that at all? You don't need to say anything. No one's like demanding an explanation for why Paris isn't on the team.
I still think the Paris one is still.
Oh,
look,
way
neither
better.
of them are great, but
it's way better. But I just think in writing stuff like that, did you say thank you for your contributions and whatever? Like whatever, man. Like I don't know. I know it's a bit vanilla. It's a bit boring. Like I get a kick out of reading shit like this. I think it's hilarious, but. You know, ultimately it's kind of wild, but whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, BDS, another very interesting nothing burger. Right. Team Heretics. Now, Heretics, obviously, let me pull the thing up there as well.
You're going to need to help me here on Heretics again because.
Tracin is, I believe, was on their academy team. So I think he actually replaced Carlson on the academy, or not replaced him, but obviously when Carlson went up, he filled that void, and now that Carlson's departing, he is filling that void. They kept Shio after saying all off season they were going to sign Razork. Didn't really work out well, did it? Camilo is gone. Seren is playing mid lane. I think Seren is a very interesting player, personally. Ice comes in for Flacked, probably a good move, I'd suggest. Probably an upgrade on paper.
It's a brilliant move.
And then Stend stays, which I also think is smart. I like, bearing in mind that you're not expecting Heretics to shoot for the moon necessarily, and I think they did try and shoot for the moon. As I said, they tried to get Razork. So, you know, they tried to, like, really go for it. I think this is a B. This is a B of an off-season in terms of what you could realistically expect, where upgrades can be made. I think they did some fairly savvy stuff, and you can actually tell that these people actually... it's Hidden, isn't it? Hidden's a coach. Yeah, you can actually tell that these people actually know a little bit about what they're watching. Because Seren, I think, is a very good ERL mid laner who has things that can translate into LEC. I think once you can't get Razork, keeping Shio is a no-brainer. Yep. And I have not watched much of Tracin, so I don't have too much to comment on that. But, you know, Carlson, I think Carlson did himself... I think he represented himself very well.
I think he grew quite well.
I think when he came into the league, I thought, this guy is out of his depth. He should not be here. They're doing it because it's a budget move, and he's already signed to their organization. But I think by the end... he performed pretty admirably versus what the expectation should have been. So I don't think he should like hang his head in shame whatsoever. But ultimately, if you want to go to the next level, is he the right guy? Probably not. So to me, this is all quite logical. I quite like this the vision for the team building here. As I said, shooting for the stars initially and then landing on the upgrades that you want to land on while keeping Shio. I think it's smart. But yeah, Nymaera,
the biggest thing here is Ice, right? Though, because I think, but the consistent thing we said about Heretics, and it remained true basically the whole year, was who was the main carry, and they really struggled with that because Flackett has never really been the main carry guy. He's been a guy who's very good to play random utility, like he was great at stuff like the Seraphine bot, like in 21 for G2, is the creative guy like that. Never really wanted Flackett as like the main carry. Wasn't going to pick a game up from a lead and carry to a victory. Sometimes he did, but it wasn't as common, right? Ice is someone who is typically safe pair of hands. That's the way we refer to him as like the stat stick before, right? But you know, if Ice is on someone that can deal damage from a decent range, he's pretty happy to sit there at a dragon fight and just do that. So yeah, I think that actually having someone you can be like look to and say, okay, we're going to build a comp around you. That makes a lot of sense to me. We'll see how Seren does against the laning caliber of LEC because he was very good in ERLs. I think his last EU Masters stint, I'm trying to remember if he got a little bit diffed against Lost Ratones, actually. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember the last couple of games. They're not as fresh in my mind. But yeah, I'm glad that they've kept Sheo and Sten together. You know, I think on the whole, keeping a jungle support that works well together, that's a good thing to do. That's like
That's massive for this team. Yeah,
Yeah.
like that's the spine of this team. You know what I mean? Is you're just taking shield stand and you're just hopefully putting better, stronger legs and stronger arms on it. You know what I mean? And you're not got the same laning deficiencies, and you can maybe like shield's weakness for me is always going to be team fighting. So hopefully you can set up stronger individuals for the team fights.
Yep, hopefully. So yeah, I think on the whole, I think this can be an upgrade. I think stylistically, now you're worried a little bit less about who takes the game by the scruff of the neck. It kind of felt like it had to be Sheo actually last year. It was like, I'm just gonna have to pick fucking Brand or AP junglers, even though maybe they're not the best, but it's the one which I have the highest chance of carrying on. So hopefully that brings some extra value for him. We'll see how the solo lane is trying to transfer up to an LEC level. And Ice, yeah, I think he's probably the more of the archetype kind of player you want for Heretics, or someone like you can actually look to his first port call and say, all right, you're in the driver's seat. We're going to set up around you. Hopefully, you carry the team fights.
I think this team's exactly what all like the bad teams should be doing. Like, but it makes sense.
A clear identity.
Yeah, clear identity, consistent pieces. Like, I don't know. I
guess know thyself. The second banana diff.
Exactly. Know thyself.
Yeah, I think this is just a completely logically built team, which has completely solid, reliable elements in Sheo and Stend. And also, even to a certain extent, Ice. Like, I can't imagine changing team is going to change Ice that much. He is playing the most plug-and-play role anyway. And Ice, as an ADC archetype, is like the textbook ADC player anyway. So, to me, and with a decently high ceiling. So, and then your small gambles are like, can Seren do it on the next level? But Seren has been someone, as I said, who's shown attributes at least which suggests that he should be able to, and even maybe have a decent ceiling on that level. So to me, this is like, yeah, as I said, I don't know too much about the top laner, but outside of that, yeah, I think this looks completely smart and logical. Anyway, let's not stick too long on them, as I'm sure we'll have lots to say about Vitality. Now, to me, the biggest travesty of this team, or it's not even of this team, is that MKOI didn't just go to Vitality. Like, dude, just go to Vitality. Like, come on. Then we have like another proper contender, probably. Like, you keep Nako, who's just super awesome, fun to watch. He's Oscorin 2.0, but with more upside. Linsus, I guess you can make arguments that if the right, if they went for Inspired or something, like, sure. Like, I'm sure you can upgrade Linsus, but it's not like he's bad, or he's completely run his course, or he can't get better at this stage.
He's been underwhelming from, like, his rep.
Yeah. Like, if you were going to make an additional change, it would have been in jungle, like, for sure. Shayak, who I think is another one you can say, bit unlucky to just not be on another team. Like, did he look bad? No, like, he looked completely fine. It's not like it's not God-given right or something that you have to be in the league if you're an average player for your role or something like that within the context of the league. But still, like, I think this guy did not deserve to be kicked entirely out of the league. But, it is what it is. But Humanoid, obviously, is still a big upgrade, at least on paper. So, to me, that is logical from Vitality's perspective. Keeping Kazi... I think Kazi, I guess, to be honest.
Yeah, imagine if Chayek went to GiantX. I think, like, that might have been an upgrade over
that's a great shout. Yeah, Chayek to GiantX.
I was just scanning through the rosters. I guess some of the other ones, like, well,
Navi, you could have done.
The IRLs coming up, or like whatever. I mean, yeah. I think that Chayek over Poby was an answer too, but I guess that. Yeah, I mean, Navi is a bit of a weird project.
Honestly,
right?
SK Gaming, like, let's be real.
Sure.
If I'm picking between Chayek
that seems like it's very like.
I know
that seems like that's a friends club kind of thing, right?
Of course, but
in KC, I mean, I don't know what their plans are. I mean, Yahoo's actually pretty good mid laner, so I'm not going to do anything about that. And then these the ERL teams, so you're likely not going to see them next. It's not a consistent position, right? And then I guess you probably would take probably GiantX is probably the position I would have said.
With the jungle changes, I think not changing Linsus becomes like less of an issue anyway.
Well, I don't think that Linsus was. I think Linsus was pretty good actually towards the end of the last. He was actually front running a couple of good games actually. I thought that Linsus. I
thought he was fine but replaceable if you really were like shooting for the stars.
I mean, the players you keep on this roster, Nako is first and foremost. I think this guy's like a real prodigy, and then Kazi, I guess. And
Kazi wasn't good.
He wasn't good, but he showed that he was Kazi every now and then.
Yeah, I think Knock is the player you're like, you definitely keep Nako. And then I think everyone else is just like whatever dice and cards fall in your off season. I think the fact that you've ended up getting Humanoid and Kazi back together again, first time since Mad Lions 21, right? I'm interested to see how that works out. Obviously, Vitality has kind of become a little bit of a kind of like a home away from home from that Mad Lions org when you had like Mac and Mahad go over, Kazi's there now, Humanoid's there too now. I wonder how much
nothing wrong with running back a good thing, Nymaera.
Well, I mean that was like the good bits of that was the good era of Mad Lions, right? So I wonder. Well, we don't. I suppose I don't know whether Mac and Pad are still there together at Vitality or what's happened there. I'm actually not sure there's been a confirmation.
I don't think there's been official word.
Yeah,
on that.
But if it feels like kind of like the essence of the old Mad Lions is now gone away from Mobstar Coin now over towards Vitality, and like Vitality have squandered a lot of chances and a lot of talent before. I don't know how much you dilute kind of the curse of Vitality by adding, I suppose, the best era of Mad Lions from 21. No, that was the best era. I mean, Mobstar Coin have obviously been pretty good too, but obviously that's different, I suppose, from Mad Lions. I getting Humanoid and Kazi together, that has me interested in this team. But am I biting into the razor cake another time? I don't know. Keire, convince me or not.
I don't think this team will win Splash, but I think this team has the potential to like upset people and basically ruin their day.
Most entertaining team of the year.
Yeah, the thing is they have potentially got the strongest mechanical backline and the ability to outmuscle anybody in the league. I don't think that's that outrageous to say. I think Nako, Kazi, Humanoid is the most skilled backline in the league, barring G2.
I could agree with that. And it's just whether Linsus and Fleshy can hold together the macro game, basically. But I think actually having Kazi Humanoid together as like a duo, which are like having the two of them together to bounce off each other. I think one of the biggest problems of Fnatic was clearly there were personality clashes and people thought about the game in a different way. Humanoid and Kazi, I think they actually do think about the game in a similar way, and I think they communicate way more effective. Obviously, you see the chemistry off the rift, right? They're very happy to yap at each other. I think that Humanoid Kazi, they could potentially link up very well at that point. My worry then at that point is where in the pecking order does Linsus fall and how well does he tap into that? Because I think Linsus looked better when he looked like top dog on the macro sense, when he was like leading the charge on stuff like the Trundle and then pulling Flashy around the map with him. So I suppose just kind of looking at in terms of like the comm structure, I'm interested to see how Humanoid Kazi then interacts with like Linsus Fleshy.
Probably be easier
Fleshy
for Linsus to play the game with Humanoid in mid though, like in a general sense. I'd have thought. I think any
I don't think Chai was bad on that.
No, he wasn't bad. But like I think any jungler benefits from consistent lane pressure from their mid laner. And you're right, Shaik wasn't bad at all, but I do think there is a level of, it's not just, will Shaik, do well in lane this week or not, it's also the psychological element of thinking my mid lane is going to be safe in lane, to a certain extent. So yeah, as I said, to me, the tragedy of this, again, don't feel good about singling them out necessarily, but change support, man. Like, can we just upgrade support and make this team interesting? As I said, Mickey X.
Okay, but who would you pull up at this point? Well, Mickey would have been the guy.
Yeah, Mickey would have been the one. I don't even know. I'd never actually asked people if that conversation happened.
Like, what the options were.
But then Mickey wanted to play with Wonder and Leader, though, I presume.
Yeah,
so
I'm
going
to assume that they did ask Mickey, or did talk to Mickey, and he turned it down. But yeah, to me, that is just a shame because you just create another interesting team. I think one of the most interesting things about this year just gone was that we had 3 legitimately good teams in the league at different moments in time, with another team that was like okay-ish sort of wild card in Fnatic. I don't mean good internationally, sort of speaking, like the highest of the highest tier, but you know what I mean. Like they were good domestic teams, and it was fun having that many teams. I think if this Vitality,
like GX threatening at like little points.
If you have Vitality with like Mickey X here, you'd have a whole bunch of teams where you're like, you know what, I want to see that.
It's really worth noting that LEC was the most entertaining it's been regionally in years last year. Like we shouldn't forget that they're actually a very entertaining team to set of teams to watch. Even though, I mean, I guess we had the failure at MSI, but First Stand was good. We've got a team out of Swiss for the first time in Yonks with G2. I mean, last year was actually, in terms of an entertainment standpoint, and I guess overall in terms of result, pretty good year for LEC considering the drought we'd had before that.
Yeah. So that is going to be it for this week, guys. Obviously, when it gets closer to the season, we'll do what is that competition called? I don't know, the fake pre-LEC tournament thing, whatever it's happening. We'll obviously preview that. We'll talk more about KC Blue and a bit more detail on Los Ratones as well. We'll also, of course, do our tier list, power rankings, whatever you want to call it, at some point. Again, closer to the start of the split, because there's also a few details missing which could be, I guess, affect things like that, such as I actually don't know who is coaching Vitality. I actually have no idea at this point. So yeah, we'll see once everything is like signed, sealed, and delivered. I guess technically some of these roster moves haven't been announced or whatever as well. So I mean, it still says Oscar's the top laner for Fnatic. So whatever, we'll deal with
I don't
all
think
of
it
that.
does it?
Not on here. I'm saying like on if you go on like
Oh,
Leaguepedia
yeah.
or like the rosters, officially he's the top laner.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, we'll deal all of that as and when much closer to the time and when it's more relevant. But other than that, thank you guys all for watching, and we'll see you next time.